Chapter 9-10. The light of the god-binding chains gradually dimmed and retracted back into their bodies. With a rustling sound, Lin Muyu's feet touched the ground, but a wave of dizziness came over her. Her injuries were too severe, and she fell down. Qin Yin hurriedly turned around and hugged him, but she didn't dare to look at Lin Muyu's eyes. Xiao Yin, Lin Muyu forced her eyes wide open and said, "Let me look at you." "No, you don't want to see me." "It's okay. No matter what you become, you will always be my Xiao Yin." Lin Muyu coughed violently, and her whole body trembled. Qin Yin slowly turned her face, and a pair of blazing eyes with golden flames floating in them looked at her lover blankly. But what she didn't expect was that Lin Muyu could actually look her in the eyes. In fact, Lin Muyu was also indescribably amazed. The blazing eyes was a kind of domain power, and the feeling of burning one's soul was not pleasant to anyone. But the invisible elephant art that Lin Muyu cultivated was also a domain power, and it was a divine art that came from God Emperor Fuxi of the sky beyond heaven. As long as Lin Muyu used a bit of the invisible elephant art, she would naturally be able to look Qin Yin in the eyes. Actually, this kind of eyes is also very beautiful. Lin Muyu smiled. 2 lines of crystal clear tears fell from the blazing eyes. Qin Yin hugged Lin Muyu tightly, and said, "Thank you." "Thank you." At this time, Terralyn walked forward, and put one hand on Lin Muyu's arm, and said to Qin Yin, "I don't know if it's better to call you Qin Yin or Xin, but I'll call you Xin for now. I'm used to it." "Terralyn? Go." Terralyn nodded and said, "I'll take care of him. You go kill Bailey Qin. Bailey Qin is already injured, so you can't let him escape. Otherwise, he'll definitely take revenge. You and I both understand the principle of exterminating evil. If we don't kill Bailey Qin today, I'm afraid we won't have another chance like this in the future." And Qin Yin let go of Lin Muyu's hand. Light circulated in her palm and gathered into the shape of a stellar sword. She said softly, "Big brother, you, wait for me here for a while." Lin Muyu lowered her head and did not speak. After being severely injured by Bailey Qin, she did not even have the strength to speak. "Kill." Su Jiantao and Wei Chou raised their swords at almost the same time. The army madly charged towards the Blackstone Empire's army. In the midst of the chaos, a golden light blossomed. It was the eyes of the blazing light colliding with Bailey Qin's domain. Immediately after, tens of sky dragon crystals fell, and Xian's 7 slashes swept across the battlefield. Lin Muyu and Terralyn stayed where they were, watching the battle from afar. Before the 50th round, a heart-wrenching wail came from the sky. It was Bailey Qin's voice. Pieces of broken rock walls fell from the sky like rain. This meant that Bailey Qin's godly power was already disintegrating. After another 50 rounds, the clouds in the sky exploded with a shocking light. A figure fell from the sky. It was Bailey Qin's body, but it was headless. Pa! In the energy screen that shattered the void, Qin Yin appeared beside Lin Muyu, holding Bailey Qin's head in her hand. "Give it to me," Terralyn demanded. Qin Yin nodded her head. A few seconds later, Terralyn carried Bailey Qin's head and flew into the sky. She raised the head high and said with a voice as loud and clear as the descent of a deity, "Bailey Qin was cruel and vicious. He has been killed. Soldiers of the Blackstone Empire, give up resisting. You have already lost." Originally, the more than 200,000 soldiers of the Blackstone Empire had the upper hand. The Tiger Leopard cavalry had charged forward and killed many soldiers of the Qin army. However, after Terralyn's shout, they immediately lost their will to fight. Bailey Qin was not only the Blackstone Empire's marshal, but also one of the 2 sacred martial gods. He was the military god of the Blackstone Empire and the symbol of military strength. Now that Bailey Qin was dead, the mountain of the Blackstone Empire's army had collapsed. In the next moment, the army collapsed. Sounds of killing could be heard from afar. It was Xiang Yu and Ding Shi's army. The plains in front of the dragon-slaying pass were like a large net. Now that the net had been opened, all that was left was to catch the fish in the net. Wei Chou looked excited. He raised his sword and led the Longdan army camp to charge back and forth. How many days had it been? He had been enduring the pressure of being hunted. Now, he could finally fight back to his heart's content. Dust flew everywhere. The area within a radius of 10 kilometers had been turned into a battlefield. It was difficult to distinguish between friend and foe. However, as long as they saw someone wearing the black armor of the Blackstone Empire, they would start fighting. In the beginning, the Ashen Flame Army and the Sea Mountain Army were still able to resist a little. However, when Ding Shi and Xiang Yu's troops joined the battle, this kind of resistance was weakened. The dragon knights in the sky kept circling around. From the beginning of the slaughter, they were unable to do anything. Even Terrelin, Lake, and the others joined the battle. It was rare to see a battle angel killing a dragon knight. Qin Yin was full of guilt. She didn't think that Terrelin, Lake, and the others had already made the decision to help the state of Qin fight against the Blackstone Empire. If the various gods of the Western Divine Realm were to find out, her family would probably be implicated as well. You, come with me. Qin Yin put Lin Muyu's arm on her shoulder and flew up to the dragon-slaying pass. She sat down at a gap in the battlement that had been destroyed by the stone torch carts. She nestled in Lin Muyu's arms and gently opened her palm. The warm power of the law of light permeated the wound like a warm sun. Immediately, Lin Muyu's wound began to stop bleeding and quickly healed. She knew that Lin Muyu wanted to see this battle with her own eyes. This battle was related to the future of the entire Lingnan and the survival of half of the country. However, what Qin Yin didn't expect was that Lin Muyu didn't look at the battle below the city wall. Instead, she looked straight at her. Immediately, Qin Yin's face turned red. What's wrong? This time, you're not leaving, right? Lin Muyu asked without much confidence. Yes, I'm not leaving. What is the Western Divine Realm like? Is that the last reincarnation of the Heavenly Tao? Yes. Qin Yin gently nodded and said, Sister Haiyan said that as long as I remember everything, it means that the 6 paths of reincarnation is over and I can be a new person. You're not completely a person now, but a god. Lin Muyu looked at her attire and smiled. However, this smile affected the wound and she couldn't help but let out a cry. You're too careless, don't move. Qin Yin frowned slightly and used a dagger to cut open the armor on Lin Muyu's abdomen. After applying medicine, she tore off the white skirt of the Western Divine Realm and carefully bandaged it for him. As she bandaged it, her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife because she saw that there were many crisscrossed scars on Lin Muyu's body. He had been guarding the great Qin Empire for so many years. God knows how many times he had been injured. Xiao Yin. Yes? Don't cry. Lin Muyu struggled to raise her palm and used her dirty fingers to wipe away Qin Yin's tears. Instead, there were 2 gray marks on her snow-white face. Lin Muyu hurriedly put down her hand and pretended that nothing had happened. Qin Yin giggled and leaned her face on Lin Muyu's chest. I'm sorry, it's all because of my willfulness that you've suffered so much. You are indeed willful. Lin Muyu leaned against the broken wall and said, Your willfulness almost caused Lingnan to suffer a great disaster. Xiao was criticized and suffered for so many years. Your willfulness almost caused the entire Qin Empire to be completely destroyed. I was wrong. Qin Yin raised her face and looked like she was begging for mercy. I really know I was wrong. I will always stay by your side and never leave you. That's what you said. By the way, do you still remember that Xiao went to save you in the ghost realm? I remember all of it. Qin Yin nodded and her eyes turned red. I owe Xiao too much. The 3 of us don't owe each other anything. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. You give because you care. This kind of giving doesn't ask for anything in return. So don't feel guilty. If something like that happened to Xiao, you and I would do the same. Well, where is Xiao now? Qihai Province. I don't know how the war is going there. That's the main force of the Tianji Empire, Lin Muyu sighed worriedly. Qin Yin held his hand and said, Brother Yu, Xiao Yin is back now. I will share the burden with you and Xiao Shi. We will fight the enemy side by side. We will definitely drive all the bandits out. Okay. I've been in the Western Heaven realm for so many years, so I know very little about the Shattered Cauldron world. Tell Xiao Yin about what happened in the past few years. Qin Yin sat beside Lin Muyu and looked at the battlefield in the distance that was filled with smoke and dust. Lin Muyu rested her head on her arms and let the warm sunlight fall on her body. She said with a smile, actually, not much happened. The Iha kingdom was defeated and fled to the dragon-shaped island in the East Sea. Brother Feng Jixing led the fleet to encircle them and returned in defeat. Then, Wei Chou of the Longdan army camp fought with the demon race in the East region and spent 3 years to defeat the entire demon race and drove the demon race into the frozen polar lands in the north. Then, the collision of the two spirit mountains caused the plains to merge. The celestial pole land pirates came and killed the demon race's demon emperor, Feng Ning, and Feng Jing, Qian Feng was forced to lead the Central South Iron Cavalry to surrender to us. You should know what happened after that. Then, this battle will be the true turning point. Qin Yin looked into the distance and said faintly, I didn't expect this. I thought I would sink into hell, but after so many twists and turns, I finally came back here. I can come back to you again. This feeling of returning home is really great. It's a pity that people from home have come. Then ask them to leave. Qin Yin giggled. Xiao Yin, you haven't told me about your eyes and your identity as an angel. What is going on? Qin Yin suddenly thought of the various unbearable experiences in the land of exile and the Western divine realm. She immediately frowned and said, Brother Yu, I don't want to recall these things for now. I'll tell you one by one in the future. Lin Muyu also knew that she must have experienced many painful memories, so he sat up and hugged her shoulders, saying, Forget the things that you don't want to remember. It's good that you can return. This is really like a dream. Qin Yin was taken aback. She turned around and brought her beautiful face closer to Lin Muyu's. Then, she kissed Lin Muyu's lips lightly. She even bit his lower lip with a little force. Is it true? It's true. Lin Muyu touched his lips, it really hurts. The bite of the 50th paradise god wave, Qin Yin couldn't help but smile and gently hugged him, saying, It's really good to be back by your side, ahem, Xiao Yin, you've grown bigger. What a frivolous feeling, but Qin Yin also knew that such a frivolous person was the real Lin Muyu. In front of others, he had to put on the airs of the Qin emperor, but in front of her, he could be his true self without any scruples. Chapter 9-11. Late at night, the flames of war continued to spread in the distance. From Zhanglong Pass all the way to Linghan City, there were scenes of killing and killing everywhere. There were over 10,000 people in the Longdan army camp, plus the 100,000 people under Su Jiantao, Xiang Yu's troops, and Xin's troops. In total, there were close to 200,000 soldiers fighting a bloody battle with the 230,000 soldiers of the Blackstone Empire. Even if the enemy had lost their will to fight, it wasn't an easy task to kill them all. Perhaps this process would last for a week or even a month. All the generals seemed to have a tacit understanding to not leave any captives. After the invasion of the Blackstone Empire, they would massacre most of the cities they passed through. In Linghan City alone, they had massacred close to 100,000 civilians. The originally prosperous Linghan City had countless villages and towns within 100 kilometers, but now, it had become a desolate and uninhabited land. There were even many places where the corpses hadn't completely rotted yet. The relationship between the Qin Empire and the Blackstone Empire was that of mortal enemies with no room for negotiation. Therefore, they wouldn't leave any captives. The Blackstone Empire was completely annihilated, and the order given by Lin Muyu was the same, leave no one alive. The remaining 20 or so dragon riders of the Blackstone Empire had already lost their will to fight. They flew away from the mainland and returned to the celestial pole continent. Meanwhile, the tiger-leopard cavalry on the ground were gradually retreating under the sharpness of the magic crystal crossbows and white drill arrows. The outcome was already decided. At night, the Zhanglong Pass residence was brightly lit. Servants and workers came in an endless stream. Wei Chou left by Yin and a group of guards to protect Lin Muyu. Meanwhile, Xin was protected by Terlin, Lake, and the others. The officials of the residence prepared an extremely sumptuous banquet. Firstly, it was to welcome Lin Muyu, and secondly, it was to celebrate the return of the Empress Qin Yin to the world. After 5 years of implementation of the three kings ruling the world, it was finally time to change the national policy. The candles were brightly lit. Under the illumination of the lanterns, Shangguan Jingyue happily sat beside Qin Yin, reminiscing about the feelings of parting. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her head and said, "We have guests." His spiritual pulse art was very sensitive to auras. It was not until 3 minutes later that Qin Yin also sensed it. She couldn't help but stand up and smile. "Yes, Xiao Shi. We're going to welcome her." N. 2 silhouettes flew out of the mansion and headed north in the night sky. From afar, it seemed that Tang Xiaoxi had also sensed the aura here. Lin Muyu took out a dragon crystal and used it as a light source. She could see Tang Xiaoxi from a few miles away. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. She saw a girl in a battle angel costume beside Lin Muyu. She looked very familiar. Although her eyes were closed, she could still vaguely recognize her. "Xiao Yin. Is that you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked in a trembling voice. Qin Yin didn't say anything. She just lightly opened her arms. Xiao Yin." Tang Xiaoxi had mixed feelings. She quickly flew into Qin Yin's embrace. The two girls' figures created ripples in the air and rushed out for a long distance before stopping. Lin Muyu also flew over and said, "Xiao Shi, how's the Seven Seas province? The Long Ji Corps has been defeated." Tang Xiaoxi was still hugging Qin Yin tightly, as if she was afraid that she would accidentally fly away. She said, "Commander Feng has instigated 100,000 wolf soldiers to join forces with our Cloud Pass, and defeated the 150,000 Long Ji army led by Feng Lan. Now that the Long Ji army has been defeated, I reckon that within a month, they will be chased out of Cloud Province by Commander Feng." "That's great." Lin Muyu was relieved. Now, the biggest threat was the 300,000 soldiers of the Tianji Empire led by Bai Minghuan. She didn't know if there was a battle in the direction of Cangnan Province's steel wall. However, Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin didn't seem to be concerned about the battle. Instead, they were asking about each other's well-being. It would be a long story. Lin Muyu touched her nose. She felt that she was left out when the two women were together. She said, "I'm so hungry. Let's go back and eat while we talk, okay?" "Okay." Tang Xiaoxi was hungry too. After flying for a day without any rest, how could she not be hungry? When the three of them reappeared in the banquet hall, all the officials left their seats. Everyone knelt down in unison and shouted, "Greetings, Your Highness. Greetings, Emperor Qin. Greetings, Princess Shi." Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi looked at Qin Yin with a smile. Qin Yin understood tacitly. She raised her hand slightly and said, "Everyone, please rise and continue to eat. There's no need to be so formal." Everyone thanked her. Lin Muyu supported Qin Yin and brought her back to her seat. Qin Yin could only close her eyes when facing these mortals. Otherwise, when she opened her flaming eyes, these people wouldn't be able to bear it at all. As an empress, it was natural for her to take care of the officials' feelings. Halfway through the banquet, there were hurried footsteps outside. Su Jiantao walked in wearing a blood-stained armor. He knelt down on one knee and said, "Greetings, Your Highness. You may rise." Lin Muyu greeted Qin Yin, "Marquis Cangnan, how's the battle going?" "Reporting to Your Highness, I led an army of 100,000 to pursue the enemy for nearly 50 kilometers. There were 3 consecutive large-scale bloody battles and we beheaded more than 70,000 people. As for Xiang Yu's and Ding Shi's troops, I don't know about them for the time being. 70,000 people beheaded? Lin Muyu smiled happily and said, what about our losses? Su Jiantao said, more than 39,000 people died in battle, more than 10,000 were seriously injured, and more than 20,000 were lightly injured. I have returned, and the Deputy General will lead the army to continue the pursuit. May I request the dragon-slaying pass to immediately send rations to the front line? Got it. Go to the military supplies department to handle it. Lin Muyu frowned, we actually lost so many of our own, inconceivable. Su Jiantao, did you recklessly charge in and fall into the enemy's trap? Su Jiantao hurriedly knelt down again, Your Highness, please don't wrongly accuse me. I advanced step by step and fought steadily. However, the soldiers of the Blackstone Empire are all lunatics. Once they are forced into a desperate situation, they start to fight with their lives on the line. Moreover, their beast cavalry is really powerful. Our 3 cavalrymen fought against 1 beast cavalry, but we still lost 1 person in battle. This kind of battle loss is considered not bad. Qin Yin murmured, the overall battle power of the celestial pole continent is indeed above us, especially in close combat. Even an elite force like the Longdan army camp can only fight them to a draw. If it were any other army, they would definitely suffer a loss. Lin Muyu nodded, passed down the order to continue the pursuit. No matter the cost, kill all the enemy in the Soaring Sky province. Leave no one alive. Yes. The old official Xing Yifan stood up, cupped his fists, and said respectfully, Your Highness, since we have already recovered our lost land, then we should quickly send officials and guards to Linghan City and other major cities to guard. We should also put up notices to pacify the people and restore the administrative order of the Soaring Sky province as soon as possible. Otherwise, the civilians will become rioters, and when that time comes, the bandits will run amok. Lord Fan is right. Let's leave this matter to Aunt Luo. Qin Yin smiled. Su Yu said respectfully, I understand. Please rest assured, Your Highness Yin. Xing Yifan said again, although the pursuit of the enemy is still ongoing, this old official thinks that we should prepare for a rainy day. We should immediately transfer elite troops from each army to start training. Cangnan province will soon have a big battle. If we wait until then to start training troops, I'm afraid it will be too late. What does Yifan think should be done? Qin Yin asked. Xing Yifan said, Our army in Lingnan has a total of 230,000 troops. But after killing the Blackstone Empire's bandits, the number of soldiers that can fight is estimated to be only half, which is 110,000. At the same time, the major cities in the Soaring Sky province need a portion of the garrison to pacify the people. We also need to leave a large number of troops along the coast to resist the attacks of the Blackstone Empire's pirates. Therefore, we can only use half of the remaining troops, which is 50,000 people. At most, Lingnan can only transfer 50,000 troops to reinforce the steel wall. This is the most difficult part for us. Qin Yin nodded and did not say anything. Xing Yifan was an old official for 3 generations. At the same time, he was also a highly respected and intelligent official. Naturally, there was not much to worry about with this old fox in charge. However, they could not completely give him power. Regarding this, Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, and Tang Xiaoxi had reached a consensus. Therefore, they had never given Xing Yifan too high of a position and power. But now that there were so many things to be done, they had no choice but to use Xing Yifan. Under the table, Lin Muyu held Qin Yin's little hand and motioned for her to speak. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said, Then this matter will be temporarily handed over to Duke Fan. Other than the troops in the Longdan army camp, which will be under Duke Wei's direct command, Duke Fan will be in charge of the rest of the army's reorganization. The commander of the new army will be Su Jiantao. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Qin Yin was too smart. She gave half of the power to Xing Yifan and let him do the work, but not the actual power. This was the most brilliant part of her plan. Xing Yifan nodded in thanks. In reality, he didn't want that much. Lin Muyu picked up a plate of deer leg in front of her and sent it directly in front of Su Jiantao. She said, "Here, you won the battle. This is your reward. Drink some wine after you're done eating and immediately take your men to Linghan City. This city must be taken down as soon as possible." Su Jiantao accepted the plate with a smile. "Thank you for the meat, Your Highness." Tang Xiaoxi frowned slightly and said, "South Ridge can only contribute 50,000 troops, and Sangnan Province's Qin Yan has less than 100,000 troops. Feng Jixing and Shen Xiaoli can't split themselves, so they can only take out 50,000 troops at most. With a total of 200,000 troops, can they really stop Bai Minghuan's army of 300,000? Lin Muyu's gaze swept across the row of people on the right and said, "This will depend on whether or not the battle angels are willing to help." Terralin laughed softly. "I am Xin's man, of course I am willing to stay and help." Lake said, "I am also willing to follow Lord Xin." Zhou Shimin nodded, "Me too." Terralin said, "Reporting to Your Highness there is another important matter. Lake has a crush on Lord Xin. Do you want me to help you teach him a lesson?" Lake's face was ashen, and he wanted to pinch her to death. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. "Ahem, there is no need for that. Everyone should be united against a common enemy." But at this moment, a battle angel stood up, performed the Western Heaven Realm's etiquette, and said, "Lord Xin, now that you have restored your identity as the Shattered Cauldron Realm's Empress, and I am a battle angel of the Western Divine Realm, we cannot continue to follow Lord Xin. If I continue to follow you, it will mean that I have betrayed my faith and country." Qin Yi nodded and said softly, "Zak Ku, I know your difficulties, so I will not force you. After this meal, you can go anywhere you want. I will give you my blessings. If there really comes a day when you have nowhere to go, then come find me. The gates of the Qin Empire will always be open to you." "Thank you, Lord Xin." Zak Ku took a few steps back and knelt on one knee. The other two battle angels also stood up and expressed their withdrawal. They could not continue to help the Qin army attack the army of the celestial pole continent, or else they would be punished by the gods. Just like this, the battle angels under Qin Yin's command changed from 6 to 3 lunatics who were willing to go crazy and risk their lives with her. Chapter 9:12. At night, the moonlight was tranquil. There were many quiet courtyards in the courtyard of the dragon-slaying past lord's residence. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi had arranged their rooms together. The two had been separated for too long, and the misunderstanding was too deep, so much so that they had too much to talk about. There was no sound in the quiet night. Only the faint chirping of insects could be heard from the distant fertile fields. The chirping was very melodious. The moonlight shone on the carved wooden railings of the corridor. Qin Yin held a cup of fragrant tea in her hand. Unable to fall asleep, she stood quietly under the moonlight. She raised her face and felt the clouds in the sky. "The bed is ready." Tang Xiaoxi walked out of the room and said in surprise, "Xiao Yin, you still want to drink tea at night? Be careful, you won't be able to sleep." Qin Yin smiled slightly, "I won't. Besides, I'm used to it. It's the same whether I sleep or not. For so many years, I haven't truly slept a night in peace." Tang Xiaoxi walked forward and held her hand. Pouting, she said, "Reincarnation must be very painful, right? What kind of feeling is that? The body and soul are separated and burned. It can't be said to be painful. Perhaps it can only be regarded as a kind of understanding." Qin Yin looked at Tang Xiaoxi and saw her face full of guilt. She must still feel guilty for killing her in the blood-red abyss. Qin Yin held Tang Xiaoxi's shoulder and said with a smile, "Silly Xiaoxi, don't think about it anymore. It's all in the past. This is what I deserve. If I don't do this, how can I atone in front of you? After all, Master Lan's death was caused by me. Grandpa, he..." Tang Xiaoxi nodded speechlessly. After a long while, she said, "Grandpa is too selfish. He even ordered the descendants of the Tang family to attack Lanyan City and build up an army for himself. Everyone's standpoint is different. I've experienced a lot over the years, and I'm much more sensible than I was back then. I deeply understand that every time I instigate a rebellion, it not only brings about a change in the imperial power, but also a decade of disaster for the common people. Grandpa's death in Bailing City is a nightmare for me, but it's good news for the world. As she spoke, Tang Xiaoxi's red lips twitched, and she sat on the railing as she muttered, "I'm an unfilial descendant of the Tang family for saying such words. But that's what I think in the bottom of my heart. Little Ian, you're the successor of the Qin family, and you have your own standpoint. I hate you for killing my grandfather, but I also understand why you did it. If you selfishly allowed the world to descend into chaos for my sake, then you wouldn't only be letting me down, but the entire world. But, Xiao Yin, do you still blame me for what I did to you? I've heard about what happened to Yaoji." Qin Yin said quietly, "It's all in the past. We are good sisters, and we will never be separated in this life. We entrust our lives to each other, right?" Tang Xiaoxi nodded heavily. "Yes. I have nothing to worry about. For me, there are only two relatives in the world. One is you, and the other is Mu. Everything I do is for you. I'm good, Xiaoxi." Qin Yin opened her arms and hugged her. Her eyes reddened as she said, "It's just that Brother Ayu is stuck between the two of us, it doesn't matter." Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. "Actually, I've already thought it through. The love and marriage of mortals in the secular world are already very far away for us. We are gods, destined to leave the secular world and ascend to the heavens. You love Mu, and I love her. Mu loves you, and maybe she also loves me. As long as we are together, it's fine. We have eternal life. What we should think about is not selfishness and possessiveness, but companionship and sharing, right?" Qin Yin nodded. "You're right. I just don't know what Brother Yu is thinking." On the side, a person on a house not far away suddenly sat up. It turned out that he had long been lying on the roof, looking at the moonlight. Moreover, he was not breathing at all. In the entire Zhanlong Pass, perhaps only Lin Muyu could lower her spiritual sense to this extent. He smiled from afar. "I'm different from what you think." "Oh, how different?" Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu gave 2 thumbs up. "I want to marry too. After we succeed in the Shattered Cauldron realm and retire, I want to bring you 2 back to my hometown to see my father. I want him to see his 2 daughters-in-law. Then, I'll hold a grand wedding in Shanghai." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "Didn't you say that your hometown is monogamous? If you marry 2, aren't you afraid that your hometown's imperial court will punish you with the law?" "Humph, if they really want to punish me with the crime of bigamy, then I'll just ascend. If they have the ability, they can go to the heavens to punish me." "Humph," Qin Yin's pretty face turned red. She mimicked him and snorted. "He's actually so self-righteous. It's really unbearable. Xiaoxi, let's go beat him up, okay?" "Okay." 2 beautiful figures flashed and appeared beside Lin Muyu. One on each side, they held him down, looking like they wanted to beat him up. Lin Muyu complained incessantly. Back then, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi didn't have high cultivation, so it was easy to deal with them. But now, both of them were God-King realm experts. Moreover, they still had a lot of hidden strength. Their strength was extraordinary. If it wasn't for the fact that his cultivation wasn't bad, both of his arms would have been twisted off. Taking advantage of the situation, Lin Muyu hugged the slender waists of the 2 beauties. "Alright, if you keep messing around, I'm going to scream murder." The 2 girls' faces instantly turned red. This kind of joke was already extremely dirty to them. At this moment, Terilyn's voice came from the room below. Hey. Can you 3 lower your voices? A single dog like me has already suffered 10 trillion damage. Lord Sheen, you have to be more dignified. You're our leader." Qin Yin's face turned even redder. "Oh. Woo, alright, stop messing around. Let's get down to business." Lin Muyu was still hugging the two beauties on both sides. This was probably the reward for all those years of hardship and pain. While feeling the fragrance and vitality of the two beauties, he said, "Xiao Yin, I heard that you're already the Dark Moon Queen of the Banished Land. The entire Banished Land is under your control?" "Yes." Qin Yin nodded. "But those memories of fighting and killing each other. I'd rather not exist." "No, they can still exist. I've seen the weapons of the Xin Legion's soldiers from the Banished Land. They seem to be very advanced. How many of them are still in Dragon-Slaying Pass?" Qin Yin was at a loss. "You want to study these weapons?" "Yes." Lin Muyu reluctantly let go of the two beauties' waists. She clenched her fists and said, "Technology is the #1 productive force. Forget it. You might not understand, but these weapons might affect the future situation of the entire continent. Xiao Yin, how many more Banished Land legions are in Dragon-Slaying Pass?" "They didn't participate in the pursuit. They've basically all returned. There are about 7,000 or so left. They're stationed in the Xin Legion's camp 3 miles west of Dragon-Slaying Pass." "Can you two sleep?" Lin Muyu asked. The two beauties shook their heads. "Very good. I can't sleep either. Let's go to the Xin Legion. I want to see those weapons and equipment from outside the world." "Okay, Xin Legion." Night time. 2 huge war chariots were parked between the tents. The searchlights at the front were constantly rotating and scanning the surroundings. On the chariots stood 2 soldiers armed with Origin submachine guns. Swoosh swoosh swoosh, 3 silhouettes descended together. "Who is it?" "Halt." The soldiers raised their guns vigilantly. The people inside the tents also rushed out with cold weapons or broken firearms in their hands. All of them looked nervously at the intruders. Under the illumination of the headlights, the figures of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared before everyone. "So it's your Majesty." The group of soldiers knelt down. "Greetings, Your Majesty." "Dispense with the formalities." Qin Yin raised her hand lightly. "Go back to the tent and rest. I'm only here to visit." "Yes." Qin Yin held Lin Muyu's hand. She smiled and said, "All right, you can now examine these weapons and equipment. You can study any one of them in detail." Lin Muyu walked forward and said to one of the leaders, "Can I see your weapon?" How could the leader refuse? He hurriedly handed it over and said, "Your Majesty, be careful. This is a heavy Origin rifle with powerful firepower. When used by a monarch rank expert, 1 shot is enough to kill a saint." "Oh." Lin Muyu took the heavy rifle and studied it carefully. This kind of gun was similar to the guns on Earth, but the magazine was completely different. She couldn't feel a bullet enter the chamber at all after loading it. She asked, "What's going on? What's the principle behind it?" The leader laughed. "Your Majesty, this Origin energy gun is different from ordinary guns. It doesn't rely on gunpowder to propel it, but rather, it needs to be charged with Origin power. You only need to pour a small amount of your power into the butt of the gun to charge it, but with Your Majesty's power, just a small amount is enough. Otherwise, this gun will be useless." This leader had personally witnessed the battle between Lin Muyu and Bailey Qin, as well as the spectacular scene of Lin Muyu killing Fu Yu and Han Shu. The land of exile had always respected the strong, so he was naturally both respectful and fearful of Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu exerted force with one hand and slowly poured her supreme divine power into the Origin rifle. As expected, the charging mechanism in the magazine began to flicker and brighten up before Lin Muyu's power had even reached 5%. "Your Majesty, that's enough." The leader was astonished. "The Origin battery is about to explode. You can't go on." "Oh." Lin Muyu returned the rifle to him and asked with a smile, "Do you know how to make this kind of rifle?" "I don't." The leader shook his head and said, "This lowly one is just a mercenary from a remote star system. I only know how to use them, but I don't know how to maintain them." "Oh." Lin Muyu was somewhat disappointed. She asked again, "Are there any mechanics in the army of exile?" "Mechanics?" The leader was stunned. I think there's an old mechanic, but his strength is extremely low. He's practically a piece of trash. We've arranged for him to cook in the kitchen camp. His name is... This lowly one has forgotten." Lin Muyu looked as if she had obtained a treasure. She laughed in ecstasy and said, "Don't say anything else. Bring me to this mechanic immediately." Yes. He knew that the changes this mechanic could bring to the Shattered Cauldron realm might be equivalent to Qin Xiling's value. This mechanic and Qin Xiling, two mortals, could produce enough power to change the future of an entire plane. Chapter 9:13. Inside the kitchen, when almost all the banished army had fallen asleep, the kitchen was bustling with activity. Dozens of people were rapidly preparing the ingredients for breakfast the next day. The people from the banished land were like starving ghosts. They couldn't fill their stomachs in the banished land all year round. In the end, coming to the Shattered Cauldron realm was like going to heaven. The Southridge province was incomparably fertile, and there were countless resources. Every day, they would eat white rice, meat buns, and meat dishes in soup until their bellies were round. "Brats, go and carry that boar over." The old veteran shouted, "Cut open its intestines and marinate it. We'll start roasting it at midnight. Our brothers will be able to eat delicious marinated meat in the morning." The group of young soldiers nodded and went to carry the boar. These soldiers were all handsome, and they could be considered pretty good-looking in the exile army. After all, they were the ones who cooked. If they were werewolves with scabies and ulcers all over their bodies, the food would probably be inedible. It was at this time that the leader opened the tent and walked in. "Hey, what's your name again? I heard you used to be a mechanic." The veteran knelt down hurriedly. "This lowly one is called Roger, they call me Old Roger. May I know why the leader is looking for me? Is the food not to your taste?" "I'm not looking for you. Someone is looking for you." The leader frowned and stepped aside. The next moment, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared in front of Old Roger. Old Roger was so excited that he almost breathed his last. He had seen the Dark Moon Queen more than once, but it was all from afar. He had never seen the Dark Moon Queen up close. He was so excited that he was about to explode. "This lowly Roger greets your majesty." He knelt down hurriedly and kowtowed repeatedly. Qin Yin closed her eyes and held Lin Muyu's hand with a smile. "No need to be so polite. I'm not the one looking for you. It's my big brother Yu who's looking for you." "Oh. It's your highness Yu." Old Roger kowtowed again. "May I know what your highness Yu needs?" Lin Muyu helped him up and said, "You don't have to be so polite. Logically speaking, I should call you an old driver." "Oh, that's not right. I should call you old master." Old Roger was flattered. "Your highness Yu, why are you looking for me? You're a mechanic?" "Yes, I've been a mechanic for a few years. During the Interstellar War, I followed the Federal Empire's fleet to battle once. But that time, it was too tragic. We encountered an army led by two god emperors from the Northern Heaven realm. The entire fleet disappeared in an instant. An entire interstellar fleet can't defeat two god emperors? Those are two god emperors above the 90th level of heaven. Godly state experts can also survive in the universe and don't have to worry about air. Furthermore, they can travel through space freely and can easily destroy our defense shield and avoid the attacks of the particle cannons. Even the laser plasma can't penetrate their god wall. All they need to do is to destroy the pressure system of each battleship and they can make us fall apart." Saying that, Old Roger sighed. "The gap between mortals and gods is impossible to measure." "What about thermonuclear weapons?" Lin Muyu thought of the trump cards of many powerful countries on Earth. Old Roger couldn't help but smile. "If your highness you thinks that thermonuclear weapons can penetrate the god wall, then you're lying to yourself. Moreover, the bodies of god state experts have been tempered and forged. Radiation is useless to them. But the technology of thermonuclear weapons is rarely achieved. How would your highness you know about it? My hometown is Earth, a planet in the Milky Way galaxy. Earth? Old Roger frowned. I think I've heard of it. That galaxy is still in the middle stage of development. Because of its remote location, it has avoided all the galactic wars. What a lucky person. However, if your highness you really comes from Earth, then no one will dare to invade this planet in the future. Let's get back to business. Lin Muyu said, I want you to help me improve these origin rifles and other weapons to deal with the dragon knights and the gods of the Western Divine Realm. Old Roger was stunned for a moment and couldn't help but smile. Your highness you, this lowly one has also said that an entire fleet can't do anything to two god emperors. How can these mere origin rifles deal with the experts of the Western Divine Realm? That's because you don't know about the Demon Heart Stone. Demon Heart Stone? Yes, the substance contained in this stone is the nemesis of God state experts. Once it enters the bloodline, it will restrict God power. This is what I want you to do. Extract the element from the Demon Heart Stone and add it to your firearms. Find a way to deal with the God state experts. As she spoke, Lin Muyu spread out her hands and smiled. If you have any needs, just tell us. We will try our best to satisfy you. Old Roger frowned. This lowly one can try, but I can't guarantee success. After all, the Shattered Cauldron realm is still a low-level developed planet. Not to mention laser weapons, it doesn't even have a steam engine. To put it bluntly, I can't even build a reactor. I can only modify and improve our current weapons. It's hard to say whether it will succeed or not. Yes, I understand. Lin Muyu nodded. Let's go, I will bring you to meet the people of the Imperial Weapons Department. We will talk after you meet them. Yes. The more than 100 people of the Weapons Department of the Eastern Capital, Winterfrost City, were completely preserved. In order to protect them, at least thousands of Imperial soldiers were sacrificed. However, Lin Muyu also knew that it was all worth it. For the safety of Qin Xiling and the others, it was worth it no matter how many people were sacrificed. Late at night, Lin Muyu introduced Old Roger to Qin Xiling. This made Qin Xiling feel as if he had obtained a treasure. In the middle of the night, he gathered all the officials of the weapons department for a meeting. Presumably, they would not be able to sleep tonight. They worked until late at night, and when they finally finished, it was almost dawn. Lin Muyu brought the two beauties back to the small courtyard to rest. As they walked slowly along the corridor, her mood was much more relaxed. She said with a smile, the matter of the Ministry of National Defense has finally been settled. Next, it will depend on the results of the research. What is the Ministry of National Defense? I don't understand. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. You will understand in the future. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, everyone rest well. Wake up at noon. There may be new military intelligence sent from afar in the afternoon. After Linghan City is taken, we will go to Linghan City to rest for 2 days. Moreover, we will begin to gather troops and prepare to rush to Cangnan province. Yes. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye, and a letter flew to Dragon Slaying Pass. Under the siege of Su Jiantao, Linghan City, the capital of Ling Sky Province, had finally been reclaimed and returned to the embrace of the empire. At noon, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi brought Terralin and the others to Linghan City. Before the three entered the city, they saw the soldiers under Su Jiantao maintaining order in the city. The entire east wall of Linghan City had been severely damaged, with many places collapsing. Even the entire east wall tower had been razed to the ground. Qin Yin's eyes slightly reddened. Back then, the calm sea Marquis, Yao Yuan, died tragically in battle here. He died at the hands of Duola. Lin Muyu's sword-like eyebrows were tightly locked. This woman is also Luo Xian's murderer. Xiao Shi was almost injured by her hands. We must go and kill this vicious woman. Yes. Qin Yin said with concern, your injuries have not fully healed yet. Let's talk about it after you have recovered. Duola has two divine weapons in her hands. One is the Burgos spear, the other is the dagger of time. Both are very powerful. The Burgos spear can pierce through the god wall, and the dagger of time can control time. Before we have divine weapons of the same level, any one of us will be in danger against Duola, yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded. That Duola can not only delay the opponent's movements in a small area, but she can also speed up her own attacks, making it impossible to defend against. I have already suffered in her hands. Lin Muyu said, fortunately, Xiaoxi is fine. This Duola, let's not talk about her. Let's enter the city. Yes. Su Jiantao, Wei Chou, and the others were already kneeling outside the city. When Qin Yin led Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others into the city, the commoners of Linghan City also knelt together to pay their respects to the former empress. At this point in time, Qin Yin had already changed into a flowing cloud dress. Even though she wasn't wearing the empress's crown, she still gave off an unconcealable noble aura. Furthermore, Su Jiantao had already posted the announcement of the empress's arrival in the city. At this point in time, even the empire's generals who were adept at warfare were kneeling down. This was enough to show how noble this young lady's status was. Qin Yin closed her eyes and slowly walked on the main street of the city. She could faintly smell the stench of blood on the ground. The Blackstone Empire was cruel and tyrannical. She really didn't know how these commoners managed to survive under the rule of the Blackstone Empire for 2.5 months. Greetings, Your Highness. All the generals and commoners shouted in unison. Qin Yin was slightly taken aback. She infused her divine power into her heavenly voice and said, everyone has suffered. The Qin family came late and caused everyone to suffer so much. But in the future, it will not happen again. As long as the Qin family exists, Linghan City will exist. The commoners all kowtowed. Wei Chou led the warhorses in front and let Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, and the others get on. Otherwise, it would probably take 2 hours to reach the governor's residence. However, Qin Yin didn't gallop wildly on the horse. Instead, she walked slowly and spent a full hour to reach the governor's residence. She knew that she had to let the commoners of Linghan City see her so that they would have hope again. The invaders had invaded and swallowed up half of the empire's territory. If there was no faith, no one would be able to continue working hard. Wei Chou urged his horse and followed closely beside Lin Muyu. He reported the situation of the battle. Xiang Yu's troops have already killed their way to Dongtian Prefecture and will soon reach the east coast. The Blackstone Empire has more than 200,000 soldiers, and it is already not bad if only 50,000 are left. Their era of rule in the Lincoln province is over. Good, very good. Did you set fire to their warships so that they have nowhere to go? No, your subordinate and Duke you both miscalculated. We didn't think of this move. It's all right, I didn't think of it either. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose. Wei Chou grinned and didn't say anything. Chapter 9:14. In the afternoon, there was a continuous stream of news from outside the city, and the messengers were rushing around the warlord's residence. Your Highness, the warlord of Dongming County, Zhang Han, led 3,000 men to attack the defeated army of the Blackstone Empire and beheaded more than 100 people. He is here to pay his respects to Your Highness. Your Highness, the warlord of Huiyao City, Zhuge Tian, led 2,500 men to pay his respects to Your Highness. Your Highness, the farmer of Lu County, Li Wantian, led 800 villagers to kill the enemy and beheaded more than 50 people. He is here to pay his respects to Your Highness. In just a short afternoon, after hearing that the Empress Qin Yin had appeared in Linghan City, troops from various states and counties appeared like bamboo shoots after a spring rain. However, before the great victory at Dragon Slaying Pass, these people remained silent. What exactly is going on? In the meeting hall, Qin Yin sat on the warlord's seat and asked with her eyes closed. Lin Muyu explained, previously, because the enemy was too strong, we issued a decree that the officials of various states and counties could recruit their own soldiers to fight against the strong enemy. These people should be similar to the feudal lords, but I didn't expect that even a farmer could gather 800 soldiers to chase after the Blackstone Empire. Xiangyu sneered at the side. Who knows if those 50 heads were the enemy or innocent civilians? Your Highness, don't forget, after this decree was issued, many civilians became roving bandits. Lin Muyu was silent. Perhaps Xiangyu's criticism was right. This decree had its advantages and disadvantages, just like the decree issued during the Yellow Turban Uprising at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. It saved the world, but it also caused it to fall apart. However, the Qin Empire was different. She still had a large number of main forces, and the monarch wasn't weak either. Wei Chou hurriedly walked in and said respectfully, Your Highness, almost all the feudal lords near Lingang province are here. There are a total of 14 routes with more than 5,000 soldiers and at least a few hundred soldiers. Do you want to meet them? Qin Yin asked, what do you think? Let's meet them. Lin Muyu nodded and said, We are currently short of soldiers. If we can make use of these people, that would be the best. All right. Qin Yin raised her hand and said, Bring them here, Duke Wei. Yes, Your Highness. Not long after, more than a dozen feudal lords appeared outside the main door of the meeting hall. Some of them were wearing the Empire's official robes and armor. Some of them were wearing armor that was made at the last minute, and the most unbearable of them was wearing brocade. However, their faces were sunburned, and it was obvious that they were the leaders of the peasants. This group of more than a dozen people had never seen the Empress before, and they were somewhat at a loss as to what to do. Xiangyu raised his eyebrows and asked, Can't you pay your respects to the Empress? Everyone knelt down one after another. Your subjects/commoners kowtow to Your Highness. You may rise. The corners of Qin Yin's mouth curled up, and she said with a smile, My lords, your contributions will be recorded in the book, and when we have completely recovered the Lingang province, we will naturally reward you. But now, the Empire is in need of manpower, so I wonder if your troops are willing to be incorporated into the various legions? Oh, I see. Qin Yin nodded and said with a smile, Your Highness, I am the governor of Dongming Prefecture, Jianghu. The bandits of the Blackstone Empire have plundered Dongming Prefecture like a gale sweeping away fallen leaves, and the people in the city have suffered greatly. The 3,000 soldiers that I have recruited are all new soldiers, and they are also the soldiers of Dongming Prefecture. When I was recruiting them, I promised that they would only fight to defend the city, so, they are not real soldiers. If I want to recruit them, I will have to ask for their opinions. I hope that Your Highness can understand. Oh, I see. Qin Yin nodded. Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, Zhang Han, Her Highness is the ruler of Great Qin. Does she still need to listen to his opinion on who she wants to use as soldiers? Isn't it the greatest honor for every adult man in the Empire to fight for Her Highness on the battlefield? Why don't you bring all your men into the city? I want to ask them personally if they are willing to serve Her Highness. Zhang Han was stunned. You are, Wei Chou said coldly, He is His Highness, King Qin. Zhang Han hurriedly knelt down and said, I pay my respects to His Highness, King Qin. I just feel that I should consult the soldiers for their own opinions. I have no other intentions. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, I know that it is not easy for you to recruit soldiers, so I will not force you. Let's do it this way. The troops of all the feudal vassals in Lingang province will be gathered together to form a garrison of Lingang province. The feudal vassals will also be promoted based on the troops that they have recruited. You will still be able to bring the troops that you have recruited and serve the Empire. What do you think? Zhang Han nodded repeatedly. I am willing to listen to Your Highness and Her Highness's arrangements. Lin Muyu swept her gaze across the rest of the feudal vassals. One after another, they knelt down and said, We are willing to listen to Your Highness's arrangements. That's good. Lin Muyu looked at Wei Chou and said, In that case, I will leave the matter of reorganizing the garrison of Lingang province to Duke Wei. Duke Wei will also serve as the temporary commander of this new army. As for the Longdan army camp, I will personally lead it. Wei Chou nodded and smiled. Yes, Your Highness. Now that Qin Yin had returned, Lin Muyu could finally take the time to lead the troops herself. It was also very suitable to appoint Wei Chou as the commander of this new army. Wei Chou was a famous general of the empire and had many successful battles. In terms of prestige and ability to lead troops, he was also one of the best in the empire. He was able to convince the masses and had the ability to lead a new army. Tang Xiaoxi smiled at the side and said, "Let's wait here for a few more days. Based on the current situation, there will definitely be many feudal vassals rushing over from all over Lincoln province within 3 days." Yes. Qin Yin nodded and smiled. Su Jiantao said, "These bastards. I don't see them usually, but when it is time to ask for rewards, they all appear." Zhen Yifan laughed heartily. The prefects and city lords of the various prefectures and commanderies usually don't have much military power. This time, they're taking the opportunity of the imperial edict to make more contributions and think about their future. It's actually quite normal. Su'er also nodded and said, "Yes, that's right." Lin Muyu slowly sat down and said with a cold gaze, "As long as these people don't cause trouble, then everything can be discussed. Wei Chou, you must appease the people's hearts. These feudal vassals all have different thoughts. You must intimidate them and win over the people's hearts at the same time. Right now, we still have 400,000 enemies from the Tianji Empire, so we can't let anything happen at the back." "Yes, Your Highness, this subordinate understands." Wei Chou cupped his fists and smiled. "Then, this subordinate will lead the guards out of the city to appease the feudal vassals, and arrange camps and provisions for them." "Yes, go. Be careful." "Yes." 3 days passed by in the blink of an eye. The various feudal vassals from the Ling Sky Province, Lingnan Province, and Ming Shan Province all rushed over upon hearing the news and gathered in Linghan City. Outside the city, there was a majestic camp. Although most of them were new soldiers, there were at least 40 feudal vassals and several tens of thousands of soldiers. This made Wei Chou extremely happy. After a series of bloody battles, the Courage Dragon camp was only left with 13,000 soldiers. But in the blink of an eye, so many new soldiers had arrived. The opportunity to replenish the soldiers had arrived. Inside the meeting hall, everyone was drinking afternoon tea. "How many soldiers are there in total?" Lin Muyu looked at the name list and asked. Wei Chou said happily, "So far, there are more than 74,000 soldiers. I estimate that there are still tens of thousands of soldiers on the way." Zheng Yifan smiled. "Congratulations, Duke Wei. The garrison army has just been established, but it already has more than 100,000 soldiers. Speaking of which, in terms of numbers, it can already be considered the number 1 army of the empire." Wei Chou said helplessly, "Why must Lord Fan make fun of me? I'm afraid that the combat strength of these 100,000 soldiers cannot even compare to the 10,000 infantry and cavalry of the Longdan army camp." At this moment, a civil official walked in with a thick booklet in his hand, and he said, "The Assistant Minister of the Ministry of Revenue, Jiang Chong, greets Your Highness Yin. Rise, speak." "Yes." Jiang Chong placed the register on the table and flipped to the first page with a trembling hand. He said, "The Ministry of Revenue has done a rough count. Last year, the Lincoln province had a total of 5 million households. Assuming that each household has 8 members, the total population is 40 million. We started counting from a month ago, and the current number of households is only about 3,300,000. When the Blackstone bandits came, many of the commoners were killed, captured, or hid in the mountains and forests. Nearly half of the population was lost, and the feudal lords forcefully conscripted the commoners. Now, the Lincoln province can be said to be 100 things waiting to be done, and the farmland is barren. Your Highness, please rule the country with benevolence and pardon the taxes of the Lincoln province for 3 years." Qin Yin was surprised, and she lightly touched Tang Xiaoxi's hand, asking for help. After all, Qin Yin had been away from the Shattered Cauldron realm for too long, and there were many things that she didn't understand, so she couldn't make a rash decision. Tang Xiaoxi stood up and said, Her Highness the Empress has decreed that all the commoners in the Lincoln province will be exempted from taxes for 1 year, and the rewards for reclaiming land will be increased. For every mu of land reclaimed, the reward will be 5 silver kin coins, and the reward will be given by the local officials. The Ministry of Personnel is also ordered to investigate corruption, and anyone who embezzles or hides official funds will be beheaded if the amount exceeds 10,000 gold kin coins, exiled if the amount exceeds 2,000 gold kin coins, dismissed if the amount exceeds 500 gold kin coins, and whipped 100 times if the amount exceeds 500 gold kin coins. Ministry of Personnel, record down all my words and immediately issue the decree, and execute it immediately. Yes, Princess Shi. Tang Xiaoxi lowered her head and whispered into Qin Yin's ear, Is this appropriate? Qin Yin also nodded and smiled, That's exactly what I wanted. Another 2 days later, the last remnants of the Pale Flame Army and Sea Mountain Army also plundered the fishermen's boats and escaped to the East Sea. Whisker Port was a piece of barren land, and the Empire's navy was almost completely wiped out. They were powerless to chase after them and could only let them escape. Within these 2 days, just as everyone expected, the garrison of the Lincoln province had already expanded to 100,000 people. However, Wei Chou was deeply worried. These 100,000 people were formed by more than 70 feudal vassals, and there were also many contradictions between the various battalions. The people from the east of the river looked down on the people from the west of the river, and the people from the north of the mountain looked down on the people from the south of the mountain. It was simply a fantasy for them to have the same combat power as the Longdan army camp. Chapter 9:15. In the eastern sea, water splashed violently. Although there was almost no wind, waves at least 2 meters high rose from the surface of the sea and crashed continuously against the Blackstone Empire's warships. As for the fishermen's boats, they were bobbing up and down in the water like withered leaves, ready to capsize at any moment. It was an extremely frightening scene. There were a total of 400 large warships, but they were carrying less than half of their full capacity. This also meant that the Blackstone Empire's expeditionary army had less than 60,000 soldiers. On the dragon-headed warship, a group of warriors in blood-stained armor sat dejectedly, their faces full of confusion. We have failed the Emperor's grace. At one end of the deck, a general wearing a commander's insignia was ashen. His arm was crisscrossed with sword wounds, and he suddenly drew his sword and slashed it across his neck. Don't, Lord Commander. A deputy hurriedly pressed down on his arm and said tearfully, We're soldiers. Victory and defeat are commonplace. You're the highest commander of the 3 armies. How can you commit suicide? All the generals were overwhelmed with shock and hurriedly knelt down. That's right, Commander Lu Yen. You're the highest-ranked commander of the 3 armies. You definitely can't abandon us. Lu Yen was the commander of the Seagull Legion and held the same rank as Fu Yu. It was just that the Seagull Legion's strength was inferior to the Ashen Flame armies, so it was often looked down upon. But now, the expeditionary army had failed at the last moment. Fu Yu, Han Shu, and even the martial god Bailey Qin had died in battle on Great Qin's soil. Once Lu Yen returned from this trip, he would definitely be sent to the military law office and punished as a loser. Emperor Shi Yuan's temperament was violent and cruel. He probably wouldn't allow Lu Yen to continue living. After all, he wasn't the cream of the crop in terms of command and strength. On the side, the young scholar said, Commander Lu Yen, if you die, we'll be a group of dragons without a leader. Please continue to lead us for the sake of the Empire and so many soldiers. This scholar was Bailey Yen, Bailey Qin's descendant. What else could Lu Yen say if even Bailey Yen had said that? The marshal died in battle. Does Mr. Yen not blame me? Lu Yen asked with bloodshot eyes. Bailey Yen shook his head. The ancestor died in battle because the opponent was too strong. Now it has been confirmed that Xin is the Empress Qin Yin who has disappeared for many years in the Qin Empire. The Western Heaven Realm made a very outrageous move and sent the strongest enemy here. The fault lies in the Divine Realm, not us. Please don't blame yourself. What should we do now? Lu Yen asked weakly. Bailey Yen was a counselor of the three armies. But in the face of the many wonderful strategies of the famous generals of the Qin Empire, Bailey Yan's confidence had been shattered half a month ago. How could he have any ideas? Just then, the roar of a giant dragon came from the distant sky. Everyone immediately became solemn, and the fallen soldiers all raised their weapons in a defensive posture. The clouds dispersed, and a giant dragon appeared in front of them. It slowly descended. When Lu Yen saw the bear-shaped battle flag on the neck of the giant dragon, he breathed a sigh of relief and walked forward. Commander Lu Yen of the Sea and Mountain Army is here. The giant dragon landed on the deck with a loud bang. The dragon knight on the dragon's back lifted his helmet, revealing a handsome face. So it's Commander Lu Yan's ship. That's great. Ah. It's Lord Fu Yun. Lu Yen was shocked. Fu Yun smiled slightly. His Majesty just received news of the expeditionary army, so he sent me with 20 dragon knights to assist in the battle. I heard, the expeditionary army suffered a crushing defeat. Marshal Bailey Qin died in battle, and even your brother, Commander Fu Yu, I got it. Fu Yun's face was a little pale. His body swayed slightly on the dragon's back, but he immediately regained his composure. He held the dragon's sword in one hand and reached into his bosom with the other, pulling out an edict. His Majesty's edict. Commander Lu Yen, please receive the edict. Your subject accepts the edict. Immediately order Lu Yen not to return to the army. Lead the rest of the troops to the wilderness south of the Lincoln province and continue to expand the territory for the empire. If you don't reclaim the land of Lingnan, you are not to return. Ah. Lu Yen was slightly stunned. Our army only has 50,000 to 60,000 soldiers left. How can we fight against Lin Muyu's army of more than 100,000 soldiers? His Majesty is sending us to our deaths. How can that be? Fu Yun said faintly, His Majesty has sent me to assist you. Besides, the Tianji Empire's army of 300,000 is currently attacking the steel wall at Lingbei. If nothing goes wrong, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's army will soon leave Lingbei and head towards the steel wall to participate in the battle. When that time comes, won't it be a great opportunity for us to take back Lincoln province? But our troops are still. Please do not question His Majesty's decision. Fu Yun laughed. His Majesty has already issued a royal decree, calling for the various mercenary groups within the Empire's borders to participate in the war, entering the Sky Province to seize cities and plunder land. At this moment, there are at least 1,000 warships behind me, and none of these mercenary leaders are people to be trifled with. Commander should also know that. But if we let these mercenaries seize the city, they will definitely establish themselves as kings. It will not help us at all. Commander, you don't understand. The purpose of the mercenaries is only to deplete the strength of the Qin army. Our real goal should be more long-term, such as the Qin family's capital, Lanyan City. Ah. Lu Yen was startled and nodded slightly. I think. I understand, then what are you waiting for? All right. Lu Yen stood up straight and said with a loud voice, immediately send the order, turn the ship around and head for the coast 200 miles south of the Lincoln province to find a way out. Further south of the southern border of the Lincoln province, 100 miles of dense forest covered the area. There were tigers, pythons, poisonous insects, and so on in the forest. It was difficult for ordinary people to reach. It was also because of the existence of this natural barrier that the Empire's territory did not continue to expand further south. But there were still human beings in the south, the Southern Wasteland tribe. In the eyes of the people of the Empire, the Southern Wasteland tribe was also known as the Southern Barbarians. They were a group of completely uncivilized races. They did not even know how to plant crops. They did not even know how to start a fire. They still lived a life of eating raw meat and drinking blood. But at this time, in the Southern Wasteland tribe, there was smoke rising from the chimneys. Tens of miles of plains were filled with smoke. The Southern Barbarians, who were dressed in animal skins, were full of smiles. They had already tasted the wonderful taste brought by the fire. Cooked meat must be much more delicious than raw meat. Elder Lu. Elder Lu. The clansmen surrounded the bonfire and danced an ancient totem dance. The chiefs of more than a dozen large tribes of the southern wasteland tribe gathered here. Their faces were full of joy. They shouted Elder Lu to an old man in the middle. In their language, this meant, Holy Lord. The old man was wearing a king's robe. His face was full of smiles. He stroked his beard and smiled without saying a word. He was none other than the commander-in-chief of the Iha country, Qin Yi. And at this time, Qin Yi seemed to have integrated with the life of the southern wasteland tribe. Behind Qin Yi, a group of subordinates of the Iha country were full of smiles. Only Qin Huan was muttering to himself without saying a word. He was holding a clumsily made wine cup in his hand. He looked sullen. A general walked over and said with a smile, Your Highness, everyone is celebrating this grand ceremony. Why are you sullen alone? Qin Huan sneered. He looked at a group of naked southern barbarian girls who were dancing in the distance and said, We brought fire and seeds to these barbarians. We taught them how to farm, but they still yearn for peace. They want to live here quietly. They are still unwilling to agree to send troops to help us. They are really a group of ungrateful dogs. Shoo! The general hurriedly made a shushing gesture and said, Don't let their prophet who knows the language of the Central Plains hear you. This matter needs to be discussed at length. After all, we have just arrived. Not to mention eating and living in other people's houses. Now that the commander-in-chief has just been worshipped as the Holy Lord by the southern barbarians, isn't it only a matter of time before the 18 clans send troops? Don't be fooled by their unattractive appearance. Their youths are full of vigor and strength. Once they put on their armor and pick up their weapons, with a little training, they will become invincible elite soldiers. The youths of these 18 clans add up to 2 million. What a terrifying army it is. I don't think so. None of those old things are willing to work for our Iha country. As he said this, Qin Huan suddenly changed the topic and asked, I heard, there is news from the Lingnan that Qin Yin has been resurrected, and that Ding Shi is not dead. Instead, he has pledged his loyalty to Qin Yin. Is this true? Most likely. That old dog Ding Shi is truly despicable and shameless. Our Iha country has treated him so well, but he actually faked his death and has now pledged his loyalty to Qin Yin. What a shameless bastard. To think that Imperial Father even planned to build the Lingnan Loyalty Monument and carve his name in the first place. The general was stunned and said, I think Commander Ding must have his own difficulties. Don't call him Commander Ding, he is not worthy. Yes, this subordinate knows his mistake. Just as the celebration was going on, a Warhawk scout suddenly descended from the sky in the distance. He looked like he was on the verge of collapse, and his face was full of panic. He scrambled into the crowd and said, Commander-in-Chief, something bad has happened. Commander-in-Chief, something bad has happened. What's going on? Qin Yi turned around and asked. The scout hurriedly knelt down and said, Many warships have appeared on the southern coast. They are the warships of the Blackstone Empire. There are flags of the Ashen Flame Army and the Sea Mountain Army. The total number of soldiers seems to be at least 50,000, and there is also a Dragon Knight Legion following them. They are less than 50 kilometers away from us. What, 50 kilometers? Qin Yi suddenly stood up and sneered, It seems like they are coming for us. However, a mere 50,000 soldiers want to contend against the 150,000 soldiers of our Iha nation? Who will go and fight? The generals all kept quiet out of fear, and no one said anything. Even Ding Shi and Long Qianlin had been defeated, so who would have the confidence to defeat the Blackstone Empire's army? Even if it was a ratio of 3 to 1, no one had the confidence to do so. Finally, Qin Huan stood up from the crowd and cupped his fists, saying, Imperial Father, since no one is willing to go, this child is willing to lead the army. Qin Yi frowned and couldn't help but feel a wave of sorrow in his heart. With Ding Shi and Long Qianlin dead, the Iha nation actually didn't have any more useful generals. The few remaining generals hadn't fought in any major battles and weren't useful at all. It seemed like only this son of his had experienced a true war, but no one knew a son better than a father. Qin Yi knew that Qin Huan was proud and arrogant, but he didn't have any real ability. Forget it, I will personally lead the army. Qin Yi lightly waved his hand and said, 3 armies, listen up. Prepare for battle. We will fight against the Blackstone Empire's army on Zilla Plains. Elder Lu. Elder Lu. Behind him, the clansmen of the Southern Desolate tribe all praised him, but Qin Yi couldn't say anything. Chapter 9:16. Empire Calendar, Year 7742, on the Zilla Plain of the southern barbarian land, the sound of horse hooves resounded through the 9 heavens. The overwhelming army of the Iha Empire began to meet the enemy, and the enemy was the army of the Blackstone Empire that came from the sea. Banners fluttered in the wind, and Lu Yen also began to arrange his troops. Both sides were like 2 colorful clouds that would soon collide. Roar, 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 in the sky, the roars of dragons were incessant. The Blackstone Empire had dispatched 60,000 troops, of which 10,000 were beast cavalrymen, mainly tiger leopard cavalrymen. In addition, there were 20 dragon cavalrymen supporting them. Qin Yi stood on the war chariot as he looked from afar at the appearance of the enemy army in the distance, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It wasn't luck that the Darkstone Empire's army was able to defeat famous generals like Ding Shi and Long Qianlin, and they could indeed be called an elite army. However, an elite army like this with a force of 200,000 was still defeated at the hands of Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. It was extremely difficult to imagine exactly what sort of freaks these 2 foster nephews and nieces of mine were to even be able to defeat an army like this. The enemy was too strong. Qin Yi couldn't help but waver. Was the plan of his people really worth it? So many people had died, but in the end, the gap between him and the enemy was getting wider and wider. Commander? A general holding a saber turned to look at Qin Yi, seeking his opinion. Qin Yi gently nodded and said, "Let's fight." Yes. He raised his saber high and shouted, "Let's fight." The war drums thundered, and the tens of thousands of cavalry of the Iha Empire launched an attack, charging straight at the enemy's phalanx. At the same time, the army of the Blackstone Empire also launched an attack. Countless dragon cavalrymen and tiger leopard cavalrymen roared as they charged. The ground was in chaos. Both sides stood together, and it was impossible to distinguish between them. The only thing that could be seen was the dragon cavalrymen continuously spewing flames in the air, as well as the roars of the tiger leopard cavalrymen. Tiger leopard cavalrymen were a type of predator-level existence, and warhorses were originally the prey of tigers and leopards. How could they withstand the intimidation? One by one, the Iha Empire cavalry no longer dashed forward, and in the blink of an eye, their heads were chopped off by the tiger leopard cavalrymen. Their severed necks sprayed hot blood, and one life after another disappeared in this southern wasteland. This battle continued from dawn until dusk, and in the end, both sides withdrew their troops hastily. The Darkstone Empire's army still maintained a practically perfect formation as they withdrew from the battlefield of Zilla Plains, but the front, middle, left, and right armies of the Iha Empire had suffered severe losses. The ground was covered in corpses, and most of them were the soldiers of the Iha Empire. Night fell, and dew continuously dripped from the branches. Qin Yi looked at King cavalryman, and he of King that the Empire. Of King Qin dynasty. Plain. Of realm. Of. A dynasty kingdom immediately, and help me back, Qin Yi said weakly. Of 50 kilometers to the west of Zilla Plain, the Iha nation's crude tent stretched for nearly 10 kilometers, and Qin Yi's tent was in the center. Qin Yi heaved a sigh of relief after entering the tent. The oppressive feeling of death had almost suffocated him. It had been too long since he had experienced such a battle, so much so that Qin Yi felt that the scene during the day was like a nightmare. Before long, the Iha Empire returned. Of course, there were some who didn't return, but at least Qin Huan returned. Qin Yi couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. After a long time, the tent was full of Iha Empire returned. Qin Yi sat there quietly. The meat and vegetables in the golden cauldron on the table had already cooled, but he didn't even move his chopsticks. At this moment, he didn't have any appetite. "They're all back?" Qin Yi asked. "Yes, Commander. They're all back." A general cupped his fists and said, "Except for those who couldn't." "What about the corpses? Are they done counting?" "They're done." A general with a full beard said, "Commander, do you want to hear it?" "Speak." The clerk who collected the corpses reported that our army lost more than 30,000 men, and 30,000 are missing. According to the accounts of the soldiers who left, we killed more than 20,000 enemy soldiers, and killed nearly 10 dragon riders. His voice trembled slightly. "Is that so?" Qin Yi raised his head, his eyes slightly red, and said, "I don't want to listen to your clichés. I want to hear the real numbers. How many corpses were there in total?" Reporting to Commander, the corpse collection team reported, they received a total of 63,500 corpses from our army. What about them? The Blackstone Empire left behind 5,240 corpses. The other 10,000 corpses should have been taken away by them. Bullshit. Qin Yi slammed the table and stood up, roaring angrily, "Do you all think I'm blind? I saw it clearly. The Blackstone Empire didn't take away a single corpse. They only used 5,000 people to exchange for nearly half of our army. Nearly half. Even if you're all scarecrows, how could you let them kill so many people in a day? Soldiers are trained for 1,000 days to be used in a single day. Is this how you repay the Iha Empire? Don't you all usually claim to be veterans of hundreds of battles, possessing both courage and wisdom? What happened now? In front of the Blackstone Empire's army, you're like 3-year-old children, unable to withstand a single blow. Unable to withstand a single blow." As he spoke, Qin Yi's body suddenly trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Commander. Imperial Father." Qin Huan and the others hurriedly stepped forward to support Qin Yi. He seemed to be in a state of panic. This general is incompetent. All the generals uniformly knelt on the ground, but this was how war was. In the face of such a great disparity in strength, they could only accept their fate. After a long while, Qin Yi finally caught his breath and slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was somewhat blurry as he said, I really miss my Commander Long and Commander Ding. Why does the heavens treat me like this?" Qin Huan, all the generals were speechless. True famous generals were naturally talented and unconventional. Every one of them wanted to become a famous general of their generation, but the majority of them could only become stepping stones for famous generals. The next morning, Qin Yi slowly woke up, but he heard hurried footsteps outside the tent. That person was pacing back and forth. "Who's outside?" Reporting to Commander, "It's General Zhao De, let him in." "Yes." Zhao De opened the tent flap and entered. His expression was somewhat ugly as he said, "Commander, the Blackstone Empire has sent an envoy. He says he wants to discuss matters with you." "Oh?" Qin Yi said, "What kind of person did they send?" "A dragon rider general named Fu Yun." Why does this name sound so familiar? His elder brother is Fu Yu of the Blue Flame Army, the person who killed Commander Long. Preposterous. "Commander, please calm down. Do you want to see this person or not? Bring him to the central tent. I'll be right there." "Yes." In the central tent, Fu Yun had already handed his sword to a general of the nominal nation of peace, but his entire person was still dignified and imposing, standing in the center of the tent like a mountain. This kind of aura was not something an ordinary person could have. Only someone with absolute confidence and strength could exude such an aura. When Qin Yi, Qin Huan, and the others entered the tent, Fu Yun cupped his hands and smiled. "Blackstone Empire's envoy, Fu Yun, pays his respects to your highness, Commander." Qin Yi slowly sat down and raised his hand. "Dispense with the formalities. Come, have a seat." "No need." Fu Yun said, "The Blackstone Empire's soldiers are used to standing. Many thanks for Commander's kind intentions. May I know why Lord Fu Yun has come this time?" Qin Yi asked. "Naturally, it's for the good of both our armies." Fu Yun smiled and said, "Our Blackstone Empire and Iha nation have a common enemy, and that is Qin Yin and Lin Muyu. So why should we fight to the death here? My goal this time is to form an alliance with Iha nation. In addition, I'll also form an alliance with the 18 tribes here." Qin Huan couldn't help but say angrily, "Yesterday was a battle to the death, and today you want to form an alliance? Fu Yun, aren't you going too far? We still haven't settled the matter of you killing my Iha nation's commander Long." Fu Yun raised his brows. "You must be young Master Qin Huan. As expected, heroes come from the young. But you're not young anymore. You've suffered so many losses at the hands of famous generals like Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing, but you still haven't learned your lesson. Why haven't you learned how to speak human language? You." Qin Huan was furious and was about to draw his sword. Fu Yun smiled faintly. "Do you want to fight? Don't think that I'm afraid of you just because I came alone. It's not that I look down on Iha nation, but none of you can keep me here. If you don't believe me, you can try. But the result will be your destruction. In less than 2 days, my Blackstone Empire's army will bathe this place in blood." The veins on Qin Yi's forehead throbbed. "Lord Fu Yun, since you're here as an envoy, there's no need to be so angry. Let's talk about the details of our cooperation." Commander is a wise man." Fu Yun said, "It's very simple. We'll establish an alliance and choose a day to set out on the northern expedition. The Iha nation will attack the Bright Mountain province, while our army will attack the Linkhong province. This will catch the Qin army off guard. In addition, Commander is the landlord of this place. I want to recruit soldiers here. I'll only leave after I get at least 100,000 soldiers. As for armor and weapons, Commander will need to provide them for my new army." "What did you say?" General Zhao Da's face was full of anger. "You want us to provide the equipment for 100,000 soldiers? You're clearly trying to rip us off." "Fu Yun, what do you mean by that?" Fu Yun smiled faintly. "Why do your words sound so unpleasant? This is assistance between allies. It can't be considered ripping us off, right? Commander, everything depends on your discretion." Qin Yi's face paled. He knew that Fu Yun was the kind of person who would do what he said. How could he not lower his head when under low eaves? Being extorted for 100,000 sets of equipment was much better than being completely wiped out. 100,000 sets, so be it. Qin Yi muttered. "I hope that Lord Fu Yun will restrain your army when you return. You must not offend my Iha nation's army. Otherwise, this alliance will cease to exist." "Yes, I'll definitely do as you say." Fu Yun respectfully clasped his hands and said, "I wonder when the new soldiers and equipment will be ready? I'll send someone to collect them. These need to be prepared slowly." "No, it can't be slow. You must select 20,000 new soldiers and 20,000 sets of equipment every day." "I'll send someone to collect them." "Commander, you must do this." Fu Yun raised his eyebrows and smiled. "This is the condition of our alliance. It's not negotiable." Qin Yi's eyelids twitched. "I understand. Lord, please return." "Thank you, Commander." When Fu Yun walked out of the tent, everyone was in an uproar. Bandits. They're practically bandits. Despicable people from the Blackstone Empire. Why don't they just die? "Commander, you absolutely cannot agree to this. The dignity of the Iha nation is about to be gone." Qin Yi swayed as he walked out of the tent. Suddenly, he fainted. Chapter 9:17. On the 4th of July, the north started to heat up. Muyu City was officially reclaimed and returned to the Qin version. Feng Jixing, Qin Xiaoli, and the others chased them all the way and chased the remaining 50,000 Long Ji army into the 8 wastelands. They left 50,000 troops to defend the border while the other 100,000 returned to Mu City. At the same time, Feng Jixing didn't let Big Wolf Lord Mao Dun and the remaining 50,000 wolf soldiers go. In the middle of the night, the sound of cicadas swept through the camp in the wilderness. The candlelight flickered and Feng Jixing put down the book in his hand. He frowned. Who is it? Come in. It is me, Your Highness. The one who walked in was Luo Yu, one of the deputy commanders of the Imperial Army and one of Feng Jixing's most capable generals. It is so late, what is it? Feng Jixing asked. Luo Yu had a nervous expression as she said, Your Highness, we've already followed your orders. All 50,000 wolf soldiers have been arranged to set up camp in a valley 3 miles away. The weather is hot and dry now, so as long as we seal off all the exits, we can burn all the wolf soldiers to ashes. But, do we really want to do that? What are you hesitating for, Luo Yu? Feng Jixing smiled and asked. Luo Yu stood on the spot and cupped her fists. Your Highness, there are things a man should do and not do. If we kill the 50,000 wolf soldiers now, it is not what a famous general would do. At least if Your Highness Yu was here, he definitely wouldn't do that. What a famous general would do. Feng Jixing stood up and his duke's cape fluttered behind him. He smiled. Luo Yu, do you know what a famous general would do? If the 50,000 wolf soldiers return to the northern desert, Mao Dun will definitely regroup. In less than 5 years, he will be able to gather another 100,000 wolf soldiers. Every year, the wolf soldiers will go south to plunder the border cities of Cloud Province and Seven Seas Province. Every year, at least 200,000 people die under the iron hooves of the wolf soldiers. Cities are turned into ghost towns and people are plunged into misery and suffering. Compared to that, I think killing 50,000 wolf soldiers is not a big deal. But Your Highness. Luo Yu knelt down and said, Did Your Highness forget about the 30,000 Imperial Army brothers that were killed in Fire Badger Valley? How similar was the situation today? Since Your Highness has promised the Big Wolf Lord to release them, you should fulfill your promise. After all, you are the king, and your words carry enormous weight. Feng Jixing's gaze turned cold, and an ice-cold divine power spread out in all directions, causing Luo Yu to feel as though she had fallen into an ice cave. Luo Yu, aren't you being too impudent? Feng Jixing coldly asked. This subordinate doesn't dare, this subordinate just. Luo Yu almost couldn't breathe, he couldn't help but kowtow. This subordinate knows his mistake. Please calm your anger, this subordinate, enough. Feng Jixing raised his arm and said, The wolf tribe of the northern desert has always been our mortal enemy. They have invaded the south time and time again, making use of their cavalry and nomadic nature to catch us off guard. Ever since the King of Light ascended to the throne, the northern desert has killed countless soldiers and civilians of our empire. Why should we be merciful to such enemies? Killing 50,000 people can save 10 times or even 100 times more people. As he said that, he looked at Luo Yu with a deep gaze. Do it. I, Feng Jixing, will take responsibility for this sin. What you have to do is kill none of them. I can't allow any wolf soldier to return to the northern desert. I have to uproot Mao Dun's power from the northern desert. I want the northern desert to not dare to invade the empire for 100 years. Luo Yu raised her head, only to see Feng Jixing's lonely silhouette. He needed understanding and support, yet her right-hand man was actually singing a different tune at this moment. Your Highness, why don't you let Zhang Wei handle this? Zhang Wei, he is too impulsive. If we let him handle this, it will only make him more vicious. You are different. Feng Jixing looked deeply at Luo Yu and said, On the path of a general, your path is even further than Zhang Wei's. This is a form of training for you. Remember, as you said, there are things that a man can do and things that he can't. You and I are both generals of the army. When we sit in this position, we can no longer do as we please. There are some things that we must take responsibility for, even if it means being cursed for thousands of years. Luo Yu was taken aback. She nodded and said, "Don't worry, Your Highness. I will definitely handle this well. Even if it means being cursed, I will bear it with Your Highness." "Ha ha, go." "Yes." That night, in a valley not far from the Imperial Army's camp, flames rose into the sky. Not only did the Imperial Army use materials to ignite the fire, they also used mid-grade heavenly tomes and magic crystal crossbows. The army surrounded the valley and set it on fire. In the blink of an eye, the Wolf Army's camp had become a living hell. The light from the flames shone on Luo Yu's handsome face. He placed his hand on the hilt of his sword and stood there like a towering mountain. He raised his arm and said, "They are coming up. Release the arrows." A group of badly burned wolf soldiers struggled to climb up the hill, but in the blink of an eye, they were turned into porcupines. Pools of blood flowed in the flames, and countless wolf soldiers let out mournful howls that moved people's countenance. Amidst the crowd, a warhorse galloped recklessly. It was Big Wolf Lord Morden's warhorse. Ever since he had submitted to the wind, almost all of the wolf soldiers' warhorses had been taken away. Only the Big Wolf Lord and a few others were still able to keep their warhorses. Morden's warhorse was a desert thousandly horse. Almost all of its fur had been burned off, but it still galloped as if it was flying. It neighed loudly as it charged out of the burning camp, straight to the edge of the valley, and shouted, "Why?" Mao Dun roared, "Why? Feng Jixing, you said that you would spare our wolf tribe. Why are you doing this to us?" On the mountain ridge, Luo Yu said in a clear voice, "Great Wolf Chieftain, please forgive us. We have our reasons to kill you. Your tribe is a wolf, a tiger. We have no reason to let the tiger return to the mountain." "Luo Yu, you bastard." Mao Dun pointed his horsewhip at Luo Yu and roared, "You and Feng Jixing are both bastards. I curse you. I, Mao Dun, curse that you will die a horrible death. You will die by my sword, you bastards." Luo Yu couldn't bear to watch. She waved her hand and said, "Kill him. Take his head and follow me to His Highness." Arrows flew everywhere. In the blink of an eye, Mao Dun, the great wolf chieftain of the northern desert, became a porcupine and fell in a pool of blood. Not far away, in the forest, a man in a black robe trembled. It was Guanxing. After witnessing great wolf chieftain Mao Dun's death, he was completely stunned. "Mr. Guanxing, why are you here?" Luo Yu had already sensed Guanxing's aura. She waved her hand and two soldiers immediately invited Guanxing over. Luo Yu squinted her eyes and smiled. "If I remember correctly, tonight's operation is top secret. Even the advisor group doesn't have the right to know about it. Why are you here, Mr. Guanxing?" Guanxing's face was ashen. He said in a daze, "I knew this would happen." "I knew this would happen." Knew what? How could a hero like His Highness Feng Jixing do something as foolish as letting a tiger back into the mountains? "I knew that he wouldn't let the wolf soldiers live. I should have known that this day would come. So that's how it is." Luo Yu smiled and got on the horse. She leaned over and looked at Guanxing's face. Suddenly, she patted his shoulder and said, "But don't worry. You're from Qin and not from the wolf tribe. As the saying goes, those who aren't from our tribe will surely have different intentions. Since His Highness Prince Xian has decided to use you, then he'll definitely use you. He won't doubt you in the slightest. Thank you, get on the horse. Follow me to meet His Highness and hand in the order." "Yes." It was already past midnight. Flames soared into the sky in the distance. The massacre had gone on for close to 4 hours. Feng Jixing raised his head and looked into the distance, not feeling sleepy at all. The sound of horse hooves grew closer. Luo Yu had returned. The guard at the side was holding a human head in his hand. It was the head of Great Wolf Chieftain Mao Dun. It had just been chopped off not long ago. "Your Highness, I've come to report back." Luo Yu got off the horse and presented Mao Dun's head to Feng Xingjian. Feng Jixing waved his hand. "There's no need to look at it. Bury Mao Dun properly. Tomorrow morning, go to the valley to bury the corpse. After all, many wolf soldiers are only sacrificing their lives for Mao Dun. We mustn't let their corpses be exposed in the wilderness. Yes. Luo Yu nodded. The difference between Feng Jixing and LV Zhao was that although Feng Jixing would also make the same choice, he maintained the most basic respect toward his enemies. This was also why Feng Jixing was outstanding when it came to using troops. His meticulousness was admirable. Mr. Guanxing, how are you? Feng Jixing also noticed another person. Guanxing quickly knelt down and said, Your Highness, I got lost when I got up at night and accidentally saw the scene of General Luo Yu carrying out her official duties. So I followed her here. Do you blame me? Feng Jixing went straight to the point. Guanxing was stunned in an instant. Feng Jixing laughed at himself and said, I think you definitely will. After all, you have been in the northern desert for so many years and must have some feelings with them. Now that I have killed so many northern desert wolf soldiers, maybe the thing you want to do the most is to put the dagger on your waist into my heart. But if you really think so, I will not blame you. This matter is indeed Feng Jixing did not keep my promise. Guanxing hurriedly cupped his fists and said, This subordinate definitely did not mean that. On the contrary, I can understand why your highness did that. There is no need to be soft-hearted when it can be done once and for all. If this subordinate was in your highness' position, I think I would also do the same. Get up. There's no need to kneel. Feng Jixing nodded and said, Clear the troops tomorrow. Leave 10,000 people to guard Miyu City and the rest of the troops will follow me to reinforce Cangnan province. His Highness Qin Yan and Lord Chu Chu must be having a hard time there. They have to face the 300,000 troops of Tianji Empire. 300,000. Just at this moment, there was a panting voice from outside, Yushu. Yushu. Your Highness. He stumbled his way into the tent. Zhang Wei frowned, How can you be so reckless? Trespassing into the big tent is a capital offense. Men, drag him out and chop him. The messenger waved the letter in his hand and said, This is Her Highness Qin Yan's Yushu. What? Feng Jixing broke the void and teleported 7 to 8 meters away before grabbing Yushu's letter with one hand. He saw a very elegant line of words on it and it was Qin Yan's handwriting. General Feng, I have returned and am currently mobilizing troops in Lingtian province with older brother Yu. One request for you to reinforce Cangnan province with the fastest speed and must not let the Tianji Empire break through the city walls, otherwise Lanyan City will fall into a desperate situation. Her Highness Qin Yin. Her Highness Qin Yin is indeed back. Feng Jixing gripped Yushu's letter tightly and laughed wildly towards the sky, ha 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 ha. Great. Great. Me and you have finally waited for this day. Your Majesty King of Light, Feng Jixing have finally lived up to expectations and waited for Her Highness Yin's return. Ha 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 ha. Chapter 9:18. Cangnan Province, West Bank of Daojiang. Flags were fluttering on the steel wall. The morning mist was quickly dispersed by the sun, turning into raindrops that splashed on this fertile land. The temperature in Cangnan province was very mild in all 4 seasons, which was suitable for growing all kinds of crops. That was why it became one of the central provinces that produced food in the whole empire. But at this moment, Cangnan province had become the battlefield of the decisive battle between the Qin Empire and the Tianji Empire. The atmosphere on the wall was tense. The shiny magic crystal cannons were pointing at the distance, ready to fire at any time. Qin Yan held his sword and walked on the wall in his military uniform. This was what he had to do every day, check the defense. Since Prince Zhong was checking in person, the soldiers naturally couldn't slack off. On the other side, flags were fluttering in the wind. At least 200,000 soldiers of the Tianji Empire were waiting. They hadn't attacked the city yet, probably because the siege equipment hadn't been completed, and there was still a wide Daojiang in the middle. If they didn't solve this problem, the Tianji Empire wouldn't be able to break through the steel wall with just the dragon knights. Chu Chu, is my cousin really back? Qin Yan suddenly asked. Yes. Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. Her Highness Qin Yan's last reincarnation was in the Western Heaven Realm, and she accidentally became a golden-winged battle angel. That Qin is Her Highness. Things in the world are so coincidental. When you fought with Bailey Qin in front of the dragon-slaying pass, he used his bloodline to trigger the bloodline resonance of Qin, awakening the god-binding chains and memories deep inside her body. So, Empress Qin Yin really came back. That's great, that's great. Although he had heard this news for 2 days, Qin Yan was still very excited. Once my cousin comes back, the whole world will be loyal to us, and our Qin Empire will be saved. Yes, but... Chu Chu looked at the other side and said, Yan, you should look at the enemy in front of you first. Bai Minghuan will attack soon. He won't wait for you and Feng Jixing's army to attack the steel wall. Yes, I understand. Qin Yan said, as long as I guard this place for half a month or even 10 days, eldest brother and Prince Xian will definitely come to provide reinforcements. Moreover, cousin princess will come as well. Yeah. Chu Chu squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. He said, Yan, look in that direction. The Tianji Empire seems to be assembling some kind of weapon. It must be prepared for us. Oh. Qin Yan gazed into the distance, only to see a group of Tianji Empire's soldiers circling around a pitch-black, big guy. Qin Yan's body immediately trembled. Magic crystal cannon? That's right. Scholar Ling, who was standing next to him, said with a smile, the Tianji Empire has intercepted at least 100 of our magic crystal cannons. Although most of them have been damaged, some of them should still be usable. Once they launch an attack, they must have figured out how to use them. When that time comes, I'm afraid that the steel wall will not only have to face the Dragon Knight's sword chi, but also the magic crystal cannon's bombardment. My god, Qin Yan's expression changed drastically, and he said, we don't have the Dragon Imperial battle spiral to defend against the magic crystal cannons. Once they use the magic crystal cannons to bombard us, I'm afraid a huge hole will be made in one shot. The entire steel wall will simply be useless. Scholar Ling said, I think that Lord Chu Chu definitely has a way, right? Chu Chu muttered, there's only one way, and that is to use the physical body to intercept the magic crystal cannons in the air. After all, they won't have too many magic crystal cannons. Furthermore, they aren't that adept in using them. The Beeman King and Ice Palm Fire Fist are gods who possess divine walls. It can't be any better for them to intercept the magic crystal cannons. Scholar Ling grinned. Lord Chu Chu, you have a divine wall too. Why don't you go? I'm already old. At my age, you still want me to go block the cannon muzzle? Chu Chu said with a smile. Scholar Ling waved his paper fan and also smiled. All right then. Just take it as the White Leaf 4 absolutes having a bitter life. The successors call you Grandpa, so we must also call you Grandpa. We mustn't mess up the seniority. In the distance, 10 miles away, it was a lively scene outside the Tianji Empire's main tent. A large group of people surrounded a magic crystal cannon and pointed at it. They were all beaming with joy and spittle flying everywhere. It's this big guy that killed hundreds of our warriors with one shot. Yeah, even fierce beasts like the tiger leopard cavalry would be blown into pieces by one shot. The people of the great Qin Empire are all monsters. They can even make this kind of iron monster. So that's how it should be used. Our counselors have no clue at all. A bunch of idiots who only know how to make gold coins and play with women. When it comes to the critical moment, they can't even make a single hair. In the main tent, Bai Minghuan's face turned green. He said, still no clue? Yes. Castor frowned and said, we still can't figure out how to ignite and fire it. It's so frustrating. Our captives don't want to tell us either. So far, we haven't caught a single captive who knows how to use the magic crystal cannon. Humph. Bai Minghuan slammed his palm on the table and said, Southern Ridge has been turned upside down. I heard that Xin has awakened her memory. She is the empress of the Qin Empire, Qin Yin. Now, Lin Muyu, Su Jiantao, and Xin have already defeated the trash of the Blackstone Empire in Southern Ridge. Even the Saint Martial god Bailey Qin was killed. If we still can't sweep through the Iron Wall and go straight to Lanyan City to take over the capital, I'm afraid there will be a lot of changes if we stay here for too long. Yes, General. Castor said, how about, we find a chance to send someone to sneak into the Iron Wall and catch someone who knows how to use the magic crystal cannon. Bai Minghuan sneered, why bother? If it's something that can be done with gold coins, then there's no need to take the risk. Since there's no result, I'll go see someone tonight, and we'll have a conclusion tomorrow morning. Yes. Late at night, a quiet city in the Zhangnan province had fallen into a deep sleep. Yuqian County was a land of fish and rice. It was surrounded by water on 3 sides, and the fishing industry was very developed. With enough water irrigation, this place produced a lot of rice every year. It was a very rich city. In the county capital, an old man was sitting leisurely in the yard, enjoying the wine and beauties. Late at night, there were still 2 enchanting dancers kneeling by his legs, pouring wine for him. The old man seemed to be enjoying it very much. His hands wandered over the dancer's shoulders and back, feeling the softness and smoothness of his palm. This Zhangnan province was a good place, and the beauties here were also the best in the world. Marquis Yuzhong, a vassal of the Qin family. He was already 62 years old, and could be counted as a 3-generation vassal. He had 2,000 guards in his hand, and the Yuqian County was only 30 miles away from the Iron Wall. While the war was going on, he was living a very luxurious life. Swoosh! A figure suddenly appeared in the air. It was a middle-aged man in a golden robe. He smiled and said, Marquis, you are in a good mood. You still haven't gone to bed in the middle of the night? Yang Zhong hurriedly looked up, and a trace of surprise flashed across his face. He hurriedly signaled the 2 dancers to leave, and then knelt on the ground, saying, Yang Zhong, kneel to greet General Bai Ming. Bai Minghuan slowly landed, picked up the wine pot on the table, and took a big gulp. He said, the wine of the Shattered Cauldron realm is so much better than the ones in the Celestial Pole continent. I wonder what General is here for today. I have a favor to ask of you. Oh. Yang Zhong was a bit surprised, and said, what is it? Bai Minghuan smiled, sat down, and said, in the Battle of Lingdong, we got quite a lot of magic crystal cannons, and we were planning to follow up our victory and sweep the western region with our magic crystal cannons. But we ran into a problem. We only have magic crystal cannons and shells, but we don't know how to fire them or how to calibrate them. Yang Zhong immediately understood why Bai Minghuan was here. He cupped his fists and said, but General Bai Ming, I am only a civil official. Things like magic crystal cannons are all supervised by the weapon department, and I can't help you. Can't help you? Bai Minghuan took out a stack of gold notes and said, 100,000 Jin coins, 30 in total. Is this enough to buy the method of using magic crystal cannons? This. Yang Zhong's face turned green. Bai Minghuan sneered, what? Do you still think you are a loyal official of the Qin family? Don't forget, you sold the defense map of the Dongshuang city to us for 200,000 Jin coins. Do you want to back out now? I still have your letter. If I give it to Lin Muyu, what do you think will happen to you? Ha ha ha, General, you must be joking. Yang Zhong said, we are all businessmen, why should we hurt each other? The usage and calibration of the magic crystal cannons are not impossible. I can bribe one of the generals on the steel wall and have him join your army. Naturally, it won't be difficult to obtain the usage of the magic crystal cannons. Bai Minghuan laughed, good, good, good. It is so good to have a friend like you in the Tianji Empire. But when will that guard friend of yours come? 3 days later, at the same place. No, 2 days. I will decide the place. Yes, General. Yang Zhong's face was covered in sweat. Bai Minghuan was indeed a cunning old fox. The light flashed, and Bai Minghuan had already left, as if he had never been here. But the stack of gold notes on the stone table was real, and they were all from Lanyan City. The Tianji Empire must have taken a lot of these notes along the way. Right now, Bai Minghuan was not short of money. He just needed help. On the 5th day of the 7th month, when the sky was just beginning to brighten, a large army marched out of Linghan City in the dark of the night. The vanguard of the army headed straight for the northwest direction, which was the direction of Tsangnan province. Finally, the troops under Lin Wuyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi's command set out. A majestic army of 60,000 elites, carrying a large number of magic crystal cannons, and other supplies, galloped along the main road. Chapter 919. 3 days later, the army left Tiger Subdu Pass in the north and officially passed through the Qinling Mountains. In another 3 days, they would almost reach the area protected by the steel walls. The heavens were not in their favor. At this moment, it started to drizzle. Lin Muyu quickly opened 2 umbrellas and handed one to Qin Yin and one to Tang Xiaoxi. Then, she took the 3rd umbrella from Wei Chou. The march could not be delayed, but the army had prepared very little rain gear. There were only a handful of people qualified to hold umbrellas. Qin Yin seemed to remember something. She picked up the longsword hanging on the horse's back and said, "Here, it's time to return it to its owner." Stellar sword. Lin Muyu finally realized that this was her sword. She could not help but ask in surprise, "I remember that brat Xiao Pingwa took the stellar sword with him. Why is it with Xiao Yin?" Qin Yin smiled faintly. "Xiao Pingwa gave it to me. I didn't know at the time, but now I understand. He took something from you and gave it to me. Big brother you, did Xiao Pingwa give you anything strange?" Well, Lin Muyu searched her chinkuan pouch and took out a sharp sword. "Here, there are words carved on it. The hilt is in the shape of a cross. It should be a crusader broadsword. You know it. I've seen a similar sword in the Banished Lands. Xiao Pingwa must have taken it from someone when he was playing in the Banished Lands. It's strange, why is Xiao Pingwa in the Banished Lands? I've always kept it in a different space, but I've never been to that space. Maybe it's the Banished Lands." As she spoke, Lin Muyu took out a pile of cloth from her chinkuan pouch. "This was also given to me by Xiao Pingwa from the Banished Lands. It looks like a coarse dress. It's so short." Qin Yin's face instantly turned red. "That's me," Lin Muyu was shocked. "You didn't really wear it, did you?" N. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's, and her face was blushing. Lin Muyu snorted. "Come to think of it, this holy dragon has never done anything like a holy dragon. What is this?" "He gave me Xiao Yin's dress, and it's the original one." Qin Yin's face turned even redder. "Brother you, what are you talking about?" Tang Xiaoxi raised her umbrella and said with a smile, that's right. It was clearly Little Apple who brought you and Xiao Yin together, but you didn't know how to appreciate his kindness." "Oh, no, you didn't know how to appreciate the dragon's heart." In the different space, a Catasaurus let out a joyful cry. Then, a spatial rift was torn open, and it had already climbed out. Clouds floated around it as it slowly twisted its body and flew next to Lin Muyu, looking like it was waiting for a reward. Lin Muyu patted Xiao Pingwa's head and said, "All right, you did a great job. Although I didn't recognize this dress, and Xiao Yin also lost her memory at the time and couldn't remember the stellar sword and me, you still have some conscience and did a good deed." As she spoke, Lin Muyu folded the dress again and put it back into her chinkuan pouch. "Do you still want to keep it?" Qin Yin asked. It's worth commemorating. After all, Xiao Yin wore it in the Banished Lands. This proves that the conditions in the Banished Lands must be very difficult. Otherwise, you wouldn't have to wear such a coarse dress. Qin Yin nodded. The Banished Lands is a place without laws. There is only slaughter and plunder. I unified the entire plain during my days in the Banished Lands, but after I leave, the place will definitely fall into chaos again. The Banished Lands is a huge plain dump. People who have been exiled from various major plains will enter the Banished Lands. There is endless strife there, and there will never be peace. It's a good place to train. Lin Muyu rubbed her nose. Tang Xiaoxi glanced at her and said, Mu, you're already a god king. Coupled with that abnormal formless elephant spell, you'll only be bullying people if you go to the Banished Lands. Bullying people is also a kind of training. After all, the premise of upholding justice is that the power of justice is stronger than evil. This is only natural. After we've pacified this plain, we can consider traveling to the Banished Lands. What do you think? Are you going? The two great beauties immediately nodded in unison. Yes, of course we're going. Wei Chou asked carefully, Your Highness, can I go? What are you going to do? Lin Muyu asked. I'll serve you tea and water, no need. Lin Muyu looked back at Wei Chou and said, Wei Chou, you're not young anymore. Isn't it time for you to get married and have children? You're Duke Wei, after all. How can you always be alone? Wei Chou took a deep breath. The country is still in danger. How can I be in the mood to get married? Let's think about how to win the Battle of Cangnan Province. What do you think? The Tianji Empire has deployed 300,000 soldiers to attack the Steel Wall this time. Marshal Bai Minghuan's strength can't be underestimated. He also has the help of the Tianji Empire's main force, the Dragon Knights. It's said that Lin Tonghai, Dora, and other God-state warriors have also come from the 8 wastelands to help. Moreover, their chief strategist is that Gong Shangming. This is even more difficult to deal with. Whether it's by force or wits, we don't have an absolute chance of winning. Gong Shangming again. Lin Muyu frowned. It's not easy to deal with. But Qin Yin asked, Dora is here too. Yes, our Warhawk scouts saw Dora, Luo Fei, and Dolly from afar. Lin Tonghai is also here. It should be true. The Tianji Empire has gathered the superior forces of the Northern and Southern Legions and is planning to break through the steel protective wall of Cangnan Province. As long as the steel protective wall is broken, they will be able to march straight in and attack the heart of the empire, Lanyan City. Don't worry, they won't have this chance. Lin Muyu said with a cold face, Send out all our scouts and have them explore and pave the way forward 24 hours a day. Don't be careless. Bring the army and try to reach the battlefield in 2 days. Yes. Tianshu province was closer to Cangnan province, so Feng Jixing's speed was faster. The day before Lin Muyu's troops arrived at the steel wall, Feng Jixing had already led 100,000 soldiers to the steel wall. The army was stationed in the Unicorn Forest behind the steel wall, while Feng Jixing led the Imperial Guard cavalry directly into the steel wall. Qin Yan and Chu Chu welcomed them in person. Feng Jixing's 100,000 soldiers were like a dose of calming medicine, putting Qin Yan and Chu Chu at ease. General Feng, you're here. Chu Chu greeted him with a smile. Greetings, Chu. Feng Jixing cupped his hands and said with a smile, Let's go, we'll go to the top of the wall to take a look. You guys also tell me in detail about the battle situation these 2 days. Yes. Climbing up the high wall, everyone looked into the distance. On the other side of the Daojiang River, there were already densely packed battle flags of the Tianji Empire. Furthermore, the riverside was filled with bamboo rafts and wooden boats. The army of the Tianji Empire had practically cleared out the forest on the east bank and built countless wooden rafts that could be used to cross the river. This scene looked exactly the same as when the demon race attacked, except that the Tianji Empire did not build high walls and use projectile tactics to shoot armor demons over. Looking at the land in the east, Feng Jixing could not help but suck in a breath of cold air, saying, What a majestic and mighty army. No wonder they were able to defeat Yu's Longdan army camp in Lingdong province. Qin Yan said, They did not defeat them, but Big Brother chose to take the initiative to retreat and deal with them. He did not confront them head-on. That's right. Yu is very wise. The total strength of the Flowing Wind Army and the Divine Cloak Army is more than 10 times that of the Longdan Army camp. Adding the Dragon Knights and the practitioners of the Divine Cloak Army, the chances of the Longdan Army camp winning is probably less than 10%. Avoiding the battle is the wisest choice. Feng Jixing turned around and flew to the sky outside the city. Looking at the uneven grooves on the steel wall, he said, "They already attacked yesterday." "Yes, they attacked for 2 days." Qin Yan said, "But they were all small attacks. They only used a small portion of the Divine Cloak Army's front line." They tried to use the profound energy of the practitioners to break through the wall, but they failed. Our magic crystal crossbows are able to completely restrain the practitioners of the Divine Cloak Army. Is that so? How many magic crystal crossbows are left? Around 30,000. We used 20,000 yesterday. Ah yen, ah yen. Feng Jixing helplessly patted Qin Yan's shoulder and said, "You are too honest. If you have the time, you should learn from your big brother Yu. The Divine Cloak Army's actions are obviously to exhaust our magic crystal crossbows. Now that you have used up all of your resources, I want to see how you are going to defend against their next round of attacks." Qin Yan's face was overwhelmed with shock. "This. I have never thought of it." "Forget it." Feng Jixing looked into the distance and pointed at a certain place on the city wall. "Head south from here. Withdraw all the troops and replace them with my men. They are more experienced in fighting the Tianji army." "Yes." "Is there any news from Yu's side? When will he arrive?" "Yesterday's letter said that he will arrive in 2 days. Calculating it, at this time tomorrow, Big Brother and His Majesty cousin sister should be here with 60,000 troops." "That's great." Feng Jixing grinned and rubbed his palms together. "In that case, as long as I can hold on for 1 day, when Yu arrives, I'll be able to quit and let him take charge of the situation." Ouyang Yen smiled faintly at the side. Prince Xian Feng Jixing. As expected, he is a hands-off shopkeeper. The real hands-off shopkeeper is Her Highness, who is together with you. Feng Jixing touched his nose and smiled bitterly. "How am I considered a hands-off shopkeeper? I have the body of a shop assistant and the life of a shopkeeper. I haven't received a single cent of military pay, and I've wasted 6 years of my youth." Chu Chu, Scholar Ling, and the others did not wish to speak anymore. Zhang Wei, Luo Yu, and the others could not help but laugh out loud. Ouyang Yen said, "Your youth isn't worth much anyway. Why are you feeling sorry for yourself here? When Her Highness Qin Yin arrives, you can ask for military pay." Qin Yen was surprised. "Your Highness Prince Xian, it can't be that you haven't received any military pay for the past 6 years, right? What do you think?" Feng Jixing glanced at him. Qin Yen revealed a look of respect. "Then how did you endure for so many years?" At the side, Luo Yu said, "Your Highness Prince Zhong, when Zhang Wei confiscated the assets of a corrupt official in Tianshu province 2 years ago, he kept half of the Jinin coins as the military pay for the imperial guards. As the commander, there are naturally many benefits as well. Don't think that he doesn't have any military pay. He is eating and drinking well every day. Don't mention it." Luo Yu. Feng Jixing continued to look toward the east and said, "If Bai Minghuan attacks today, you will be the first to fight." "Yes, Commander." Luo Yu cupped her fists, looking confident. Chapter 920. In the immortal world, beams of light exploded in the midst of the Spirit Mountains. This was already the 27th day since the war between the eastern and western immortal world. Both sides had gathered tens of thousands of spirit mountains to boost their godly energy, and gathered over 30,000 godly realm experts to fight against each other. This war had destroyed countless spirit mountains, and destroyed countless plains. It was already impossible to calculate how many spirit mountains had been destroyed in this war. A war between the gods was destined to be a calamity for mortals. This was inevitable. Boom! The flaming battle axe slashed across the sky, as if it was tearing the heavens apart. The flaming axe light tore through the air and directly turned two four-winged angels into ashes. The seven luminaries' demon emperor was at the forefront of the battle formation. Facing the human wall formed by the entire angel army in front of him, he showed no fear. After striking with the panga axe in his left hand, he quickly raised the Xian Yuan sword in his right hand and laughed loudly. Come on, come on. The more people there are, the easier it is for me to kill. Let me see how capable you long-haired birdmen are. In the center of the human wall, Ruler Claude's entire body was covered in lightning. Rays of light shot out from his body, almost raising the power of the law of light to the extreme. He shouted in a low voice, Xian, Eva, attack with me. A ball of light enshrouded Eva's palm. She nodded and said, Ruler, you must be careful. This attack from the seven luminaries' demon emperor is not simple. Xian frowned slightly. The sharp sword in her hand emitted a light that soared into the sky. She shouted in a low voice, seventh slash, God slaying. Behind the seven luminaries' demon emperor, Xiao Fairy looked into the distance. She could not help but tremble. Demon emperor, be careful. Claude's attack is very strong. Xian's slash behind him is also very sharp. You must not underestimate her. I will strengthen your shield and life force. You must use your strongest attack to deal with it. With that, Xiao shouted softly. The divine power in her body whistled out. It was the power of the law of life. Green divine power turned into a boundless domain that spread around the seven luminaries' demon emperor. The seven luminaries' demon emperor felt as if he was bathing in a spring breeze. The divine power that he had lost was also recovering rapidly. It was as if he had been resurrected. Come on. The seven luminaries' demon emperor's fighting spirit rose. He laughed and shouted at the Western Divine Realm's Angel Legion. You useless trash. All of you are weak chickens. If you have the guts, come and fight me. Die, lay. Stupid idiot, Ming throwing Lu Mao. Claude's face turned ashen when he uttered that line of Cantonese. Fight. With a roar, Claude raised his palm. Light shot out. Beams of light gathered in the space. In the blink of an eye, they shot through several spiritual mountains in East Heaven. Even a few God-King powerhouses were turned into blood mist. They were evaporated by the power of light. As the ruler of the Western Divine Realm, Claude naturally had his strengths. Xian brandished her sword. The sword light descended from the sky. The scorching power could be felt from afar. This attack was indeed worthy of its name, God-slaying. Ordinary gods, even god-emperors, might not be able to withstand the fatal attack of this seventh slash. Come at me. The seven luminaries' demon emperor suddenly turned around. With a light flip of his wrist, power whistled out from the Xian Yuan sword. He shouted, Come, have a taste of my seven glorious stars transformation. Boom, 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 behind the devil emperor, there seemed to be a canopy of stars that led straight to another world. At this moment, the power of countless resplendent stars in that canopy of sky was bombarding the human wall of the Western God realm with a destructive force. Cries of agony and wails filled the air. Countless feathers were scattered in the air. Countless two-winged and four-winged angels had died to the power of the stars. The seven glorious stars transformation was already terrifying enough to begin with, let alone when it was strengthened by the Xianyuan sword. The seven brilliance demon emperor's attack had killed at least 100 divine kings and over 1,000 ultimate gods. Block it. Claude held the wall of light in his hand and continuously resisted the impact of the seven glorious stars transformation. Finally, with a poochie sound, he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Even the law spirit beads that flew out of his body shattered. He was already seriously injured. Protect the ruler. Xian waved her longsword and slashed dozens of times in a row. Light surged and forcefully shattered the power of dozens of stars. She was not in a good state either. Her face was pale and she had used too much power. However, she still looked behind her and shouted, "Eva, what are you waiting for? Take the ruler and leave through the wormhole." "Yes." Eva suddenly hugged Claude's injured body. With a wave of her palm, a huge black hole appeared behind her. A light flashed, and her and Claude's bodies disappeared into the darkness. No one knew where they went. Pfft! Xian suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At that moment, she completely gave up resisting. Her beautiful eyes were filled with despair. She gently opened her arms and watched the 7 luminaries demon emperor fly toward her. Buzz, buzz, the Xianyuan sword emitted faint holy power and directly pressed against Xian's neck. The blade was very sharp and could pierce through her skin at any time. The 7 luminaries demon emperor looked at her indifferently and sneered. "Is this the strongest seraph Xian in the Western Divine Realm?" "You do have some tricks up your sleeve, but compared to the strongest power of my East Heaven, you are still far from it. Do you see, your master has already abandoned you and ran away. Do you still want to continue working for him?" Xian closed her eyes. "Kill. Why do you have to do this?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor actually had a heart of love. He said, "If you are willing to pledge allegiance to my East Heaven, I will give Sun Feng's position to you." In the distance, Sun Feng was stunned. He didn't say anything, but he cursed in his heart. "Motherf asterisk Ker, demon emperor, you are tricking me." Xian smiled faintly. "No need. Kill." "Why?" Xiao flew up and asked, "Xian, why do you have to work for a despicable person like Claude?" "I owe the ruler a debt of gratitude for recognizing and saving my life." Xian said softly, "He saved me from the ruins and gave me the identity of a seraph. I will not betray him." "So, you are determined?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor's eyes were cold. "Kill." Xian closed her eyes again. But the chill on her neck suddenly disappeared. The 7 luminaries demon emperor sheathed his sword and said, "Forget it, I won't kill you. Otherwise, someone will blame me." "You?" Xian looked at him in shock. "Why?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. "Because you are Xian's sister. When she was in the Western Divine Realm, you took care of her a lot. Xian is Qin Yin. She is Lin Muyu's girlfriend, and Lin Muyu is my sworn brother. In other words, you are Lin Muyu's sister-in-law. If I kill my brother's sister-in-law, do you think he will cut me with a knife?" Xian, as a seraph, Xian's entire life was burdened with killing and domination. She was a serious person, but now she met the 7 luminaries demon emperor, the king of gods who was not serious at all. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She only felt mixed feelings, and her heart was in a mess. The 7 luminaries demon emperor continued, "You and Qin Yin will ascend to heaven sooner or later, and they will definitely side with me. If you continue to be stubborn, Xian, I'm afraid we will have to fight sooner or later. Today, you saved Claude's life, so you have repaid the favor you owe him. Next, you will owe me and you a favor. As for how you will repay it, it's up to you. Go, my celestial army is about to crush them. This time, I want the rights to rule thousands of planes in the eastern territory of the Western Divine Realm. Go back and tell Claude to wash his neck and wait for me in the temple. I will come sooner or later." Xian frowned. "Demon Emperor, must you kill? Why not?" The 7 luminaries demon emperor's face turned sinister. "For the sake of a sovereign lattice, Claude sent so many gods to the shattered cauldron realm to kill my brother. Does he think I will let him off? Go back and tell Claude that I can forgive the tens of thousands of gods in the Western Divine Realm, but not him. I want him to know the consequences of offending my brother, the 7 luminaries demon emperor. He will be reduced to ashes." Xian felt a slight chill in her heart. She raised her sword and turned to leave. There were still so many angels in the sky who hadn't retreated. Their faces were filled with confusion. Kill! Sun Feng raised his longsword and streaks of light flew out from the eastern heaven realm. In the blink of an eye, the sky was once again filled with killing. This time, there was no need for the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor to personally take action. The outcome of this battle had already been decided. The Western Divine Realm was doomed. They had lost at least half of their god emperors and god kings. They had no way of contending against the Eastern Heaven. Looking at the Xianyuan sword in his hand, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said indifferently, "All right, your mission in the Divine Realm has been completed. Go to the human realm and continue to complete your emperor hegemony." Xiao smiled. "Are you really planning to give the Xianyuan sword to you? This is your precious baby." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor smiled. "No, it is not my precious baby. My precious baby is something else." "Oh, then what is it?" I don't know either." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor murmured and smiled. Suddenly, he activated his divine power and locked his gaze on the shattered cauldron realm in the distance. After sensing Lin Muyu's aura, he suddenly threw the Xianyuan sword out. Immediately, the long sword was wrapped in thick flames. It directly penetrated the wall of the plane and turned into a stream of light, flying towards the human realm. At night, in the jungle of Tsangnan province, the army temporarily rested. After a day of rapid marching, many people were already exhausted. It was a summer night and there were many mosquitoes in the jungle. However, fireflies rose and fell in the grass, adding a sense of tranquility to the murderous atmosphere. Lin Muyu leaned against a towering tree and sat on the roots. She opened her right hand and hugged Qin Yin in her arms, while her left hand held Tang Xiaoxi's small hand and held her in her arms. The stars were dim. The 3 of them looked at each other and smiled. They had a tacit understanding. No one said anything and quietly enjoyed this rare peace. If only they could be together like this forever. Buzz! A ball of flames descended from the sky and landed on a rock less than 5 meters away with a bang. The rock was directly smashed into pieces and the flames rose into the sky. F***CK, what was that? Lin Muyu was shocked. The 2 beauties in her arms also turned pale. Chapter 921. The center of the giant rock was almost completely melted. About 10 meters deep into the ground, a ball of fire wrapped around a bright and dazzling longsword stabbed into the ground. One could feel a strong sense of righteousness from it. This righteousness was not something that any divine weapon in the human world could compare to. At least, Lin Muyu had never seen it before. "It's a magic weapon," he said with certainty. "It's the weapon that Brother Demon Emperor delivered to me." Qin Yin smiled faintly and pushed his arm. "Then why aren't you going to get it? Don't let others snatch it away." "Okay." Lin Muyu leaped into the deep pit and circled around the Xianyuan sword. Then, she reached out and gently grasped the hilt of the sword. Suddenly, her entire body trembled. She felt a strange sense of familiarity. It was as if the power of the Xianyuan sword and the supreme divine power in her body had some kind of subtle resonance. On the delicate and majestic hilt, 2 words, Xianyuan, were engraved, which made Lin Muyu's heart beat faster. Could this be the legendary ancient magic weapon, the Xianyuan sword? This sword had been away from the human world for too long, and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor ruled the East Heaven. If they wanted to find the Xianyuan sword, it should be the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor who found it first. And the reason why there was this resonance was because Lin Muyu's supreme divine power came from Fuxi, and the Xianyuan sword came from Xianyuan Xiaoyu. They were originally of the same origin. With a little force, she pulled the sword out of the scabbard. Suddenly, a clear, ding, sound of the sword echoed. The sword was bright and translucent, showing the shape of all things in the world. It was very majestic. It really lived up to the name of the Xianyuan sword. Lin Muyu's heart beat faster. The Xianyuan sword seemed to be innately compatible with her power, If she wielded the Xian Yuan sword to attack, her power would probably increase by at least 50%. Looking at the sky, he smiled and said, "Thank you, big brother. Wait for me in the heaven realm. I will come to find you as soon as I complete my mission in the mortal realm." She grabbed the scabbard and leaped onto the surface. At this moment, Wei Chou, Zhen Yifan, Su Yu, Su Jiantao, Terlin and the others had all heard the commotion and were stunned when they saw Lin Muyu flying out with an unparalleled divine sword. "Your Highness, you, that is?" Zheng Yifan asked. "Xianyuan Xia Yu sword." Lin Muyu answered briefly, "The sword of the Yellow Emperor." However, the Shattered Cauldron realm might not have any legends about the Xianyuan sword. Jin Yifan nodded. "Yes, indeed I don't. However, there is a legend in the heaven realm regarding one of the 10 great divine weapons. I didn't expect that your highness would really obtain a divine weapon. Congratulations." "Thank you, Master Fan." Lin Muyu smiled and said to Qin Yin, "Shao Yin, looks like I can give you the star's sword. It will be your sword from now on. The heaven-suppressing sword has also been lost." "All right, thank you, Your Highness Emperor Qin." Qin Yin nodded happily. She had experienced a lot and seemed to have matured a lot. She no longer called Lin Muyu Big Brother Yu in public, but called him by his title. This seemed more dignified, but it didn't affect the intimacy between the two at all. After all, everyone could see that Qin Yin and Lin Muyu were in love with each other. This was a well-known fact. Su'er said, "With this Xianyuan Xia Yu sword, we should have a higher chance of winning against the Tianji Empire. Even if we encounter experts like Bai Minghuan and Dora, we should not be at a disadvantage." "Yes." Tang Xiaoxi nodded, "But that Dora also has a divine weapon, and is very powerful. If we encounter her, we still have to be careful. That woman is very vicious." Lin Muyu gripped the Xianyuan sword tightly and said, "If we really encounter Dora, let me take care of her." "No." Qin Yin pulled Lin Muyu's wrist and said, "Leave Dora to me. Since I came down from the Western Divine Realm with her, I can't ignore the mistakes I made unintentionally. Dora killed Marquis Yao Yuan of the Tranquil Sea and Duke Luo Xian of the North. She has a blood feud with me, and I have to take care of her. Otherwise, I won't be able to face the spirits of Lord Yao Yuan and Duke Luo Xian in heaven." "Yes, that's good. Leave Bai Minghuan to me." "Yes." Lin Muyu looked around and said, "Everyone rest early. We will break camp in 4 hours and try to reach the Unicorn Forest by noon to meet up with Big Brother Feng and Ah Yen." "Yes, Your Highness." Everyone left one by one. The march was very simple, and they didn't even bring tents. So, Lin Muyu still chose to rest under a tree where there were not many people. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin snuggled in each other's arms and soon fell asleep, breathing evenly. Lin Muyu looked at their sleeping posture and couldn't help but smile. Then, she closed her eyes and fell asleep as well. After a long time, when the sky was still dark, Lin Muyu suddenly woke up. In the spirit pulse art, a powerful force was approaching quickly. At the same time, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi woke up as well. Qin Yin frowned slightly and said, "Someone is coming. And very strong." Tang Xiaoxi added, "No, he's injured." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and said, "His aura is sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Let's go and meet this person before the army moves." "Yes." The 3 figures flashed and disappeared into the distance. In the dense forest 5 miles away, a warhorse was hurriedly galloping through the forest. However, the rider suddenly pulled on the reins. The warhorse neighed and slid a few meters on the grass. He slowly lifted his cloak, revealing the face of a middle-aged man. He sneered and said, "Come out, you guys." On the branch, 3 people floated down. It was Lin Muyu and the other 2. The middle-aged man could sense the existence of Lin Muyu and the others at such a close distance. This meant that his strength was not weak. He raised his eyebrows and stared at Qin Yin's face. He said, I know you. You are Xin, the first place of the gods' chosen trial and a level 7 battle angel. Why are you with 2 people from the Qin Empire? Qin Yin closed her eyes, but she could almost see the person's silhouette with her spiritual sense. She said, I am not only Xin, I am also Qin Yin, Qin Jin's daughter. Who are you? Me? The middle-aged man laughed coldly and said, My name is Mo Luo. I am the dispatcher of the southern tribes of the Western Heaven Realm. I came from the banished land. However, the army was tricked by the despicable 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Most of them have fallen, and I am one of the survivors. Xin, listen to my advice. Immediately follow me to the Tianji Empire's camp and apologize to Marshal Bai Minghuan. Maybe if I speak up for you, he will forgive you and spare your life. A beautiful smile appeared on Qin Yin's face. Are you asking me to submit to the Western Heaven Realm again? You are someone who has experienced the Battle Angel's inheritance. Your bloodline has already been integrated with the power of the Western Divine Realm. Why? Are you still thinking about the ties of mortals? Qin Yin smiled faintly. I am Qin Yin. I am Qin Jin's daughter. I was once the ruler of this land. That is all. The Western Heaven Realm's gift to me is a kind of plunder. I remember the pain of losing my paradise. I remember Claude's greed and cruelty. Mo Luo, I will give you a chance. Immediately surrender to the Qin Empire. Otherwise, you will not be able to leave this place today. What do you mean? Mo Luo became alert. Only now did he realize that Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi were slowly increasing their divine power. He had completely underestimated the 2 of them. In fact, their strength was not inferior to his at all. Mo Luo could not help but roar in anger. The war horse under him could not withstand the divine power and turned into a pile of blood mist. Mo Luo was in the air. His black robe suddenly shattered and 4 dazzling white wings appeared on his back. It was a 4-winged angel. A 4-winged angel with the cultivation of a god emperor. No wonder he could penetrate the flame knot of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and not die. Be careful. Tang Xiaoxi's face tensed up. A god emperor of the 71 heavenly grottos. So powerful. Mo Luo laughed aloud and slowly drew a sword of light. He looked down at the 3 of them and said, The 3 of you are only god kings. None of you have become a god emperor, so you don't know the difference between god emperors and god kings. Today, I'll be merciful and let you understand this difference. Come, which one of you wants to die first? Qin Yin said faintly, So you are saying that you are not willing to surrender and want to go to Bai Minghuan to listen to his orders? I am a 4-winged angel of the Western Heaven Realm. Naturally, I will not be controlled by the people of the Broken Cauldron Realm. Give up, Xin. Since I cannot change your mind, I will bring your head back to the Western Divine Realm to apologize to the Lord Ruler. You. Qin Yin gritted her teeth. Her long eyelashes trembled slightly, and tiny golden red flames lingered on each of her eyelashes. The surroundings suddenly became scorching hot, and the flaming eyes were about to come out. Wait. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her arm and blocked the flaming eyes with a strong palm. She smiled. Xiao Yin, you don't have to do anything. I can take care of this Mo Luo by myself. Can you? Qin Yin asked. Don't worry. If I don't have this ability, how can I protect you and Xiaoxi in the future? Lin Muyu smiled confidently. She slowly pulled out her sword. Instantly, the light of the Xianyuan sword shot up into the sky. The surroundings immediately emitted a strong righteous aura. Mo Luo was slightly startled. He never thought that there would be such a strong person in the Broken Cauldron Realm. Moreover, this person was wearing the military insignia of the Qin Empire. Obviously, he was an enemy. You are Lin Muyu? Mo Luo suddenly asked. Yo, you know me? Your supreme head is mine. Come and take it if you can. Lin Muyu raised her long sword horizontally. With a confident smile on her face, she decisively attacked first. She silently recited the mental cultivation method of the invisible elephant spell. The Xianyuan sword directly swept out with the power of the overwhelming righteous aura and the chaos of all lives. Moreover, the force field of the invisible elephant spell completely controlled the surroundings. The opponent did not even have a chance to break the void and escape. You're tuning into the Carefree Valley YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.